Evening and welcome. You're watching the NewsTrack. I'm Rahul Kanwal. On the show this evening, a very special guest, Israeli hero, decorated war commander, former chief of the Israel Defense Services, former defense minister, former prime minister of Israel. Ehud Barak will be joining us live from Tel Aviv. He has deep personal insights into Benjamin Netanyahu. He's known him for 55 years, has personal insights into the Oslo peace accord, what's happening on the ground, what went wrong, and what happens next. An intensely sharp conversation. I strongly suggest you stay back and watch. On the show this evening, we're looking at the Israel-Hamas conflict once again.
20 days and counting. Israel-Hamas war rages on. Ground operation delayed. But Israel will invade Gaza. US mobilizes air defense systems. Iran warns, enters battlefield. What happens next? That is our big focus on NewsTrack.
It's been 20 days since the Hamas struck Israel, but there's only been a limited ground invasion of Gaza so far. Reports suggest that the United States has asked Israel to delay its ground operation and sought more time to deploy air defense systems, including for its troops serving in Iraq, Jordan, and Syria. The US believes that its forces are likely to be targeted by terror groups once Israel launches its ground invasion. Shiva Roor files our lead story from Tel Aviv.
Tanks rolling into Gaza. Non-stop air raids to punish Hamas. Massive troops deployment.
Stop!
And incursions into Gaza and West Bank. The formidable Israeli war machine is ready for a full-scale invasion of Gaza. But the all-out offensive is under hold. Israel, under immense US pressure, has decided to put brakes on its plan to invade Gaza Strip. The move is aimed at giving precious time to the US to deploy missile defense for its troops and bases positioned in West Asia. US forces in the Gulf are already facing rocket strikes from jihadi groups and need the missile defense system in air, as the attacks will only grow if Israel actually invades. United States is hurrying to deploy nearly a dozen air defense systems to the region to protect US troops deployed there. Israel is also giving time to US to negotiate release of hostages through dialogue.
There's a great deal of conjecture about whether Israel would have gone in earlier, because apart from US pressure itself, let's not forget that the main reason why a big typical ground invasion of the kind that Israel has done in the past is difficult at this time is because of the scale of this hostage crisis. The fact that Hamas has garnered a kind of military level capability in terms of both offense and defense, as it is demonstrating right now, all of these are considerations for Israel.
Despite holding off the ground offensive, Israel is relentless in its attacks. Israeli tanks and armored columns are regularly staging surgical attacks inside Gaza after incursions. Images released by Israel showed tanks entering Gaza and pounding Hamas positions. The IDF tank and infantry struck numerous terrorist cells, infrastructure, and anti-tank missile launch posts. Israeli PM Netanyahu detailed Israel's objectives from the current mission.
אנחנו ממטירים על החמאס אש תופת I will not elaborate on when, how, or how many. I will also not elaborate on the various calculations we are making, which the public is mostly unaware of. And that is how things should be.
כמה? אני גם לא אפרט את מכלול השיקולים שאנחנו לוקחים בחשבון.
Israel is also mindful of the Herculean challenge of removing civilians from Gaza front in case of a full-scale war, apart from possible large casualties inside Gaza, which may alienate rest of the world. With Shivarur at the Gaza border, Bureau Report, India Today.
To talk about the future of the Israel-Hamas conflict, I am joined live and exclusive on the NewsTrack by a very special guest. One of Israel's most decorated war heroes, a former Israeli Special Forces commando, Chief of Staff of the Israel Defense Forces, and former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak. Mr. Barak, welcome and thank you. I want to tell our viewers that Ehud Barak was the Prime Minister of Israel in the year 2000 when the Second Intifada, or the Palestinian uprising, erupted in Gaza and the West Bank. Before that, he was commander of the Israel Defense Forces when Israel carried out its first major pullback from the cities in the Gaza Strip as part of the Oslo Accord, which was signed in 1993. In his second stint as Defense Minister in 2009, Ehud Barak oversaw Israel's largest ground operation against the Hamas in Gaza. And as Israel gets set for another ground invasion of the Gaza Strip, Ehud Barak is the perfect guest to talk about the challenges that await the IDF in Gaza and what Israel needs to do next. Mr. Barak, thank you for your time and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start by asking you about the delay in the Israel Defense Forces attack into the Gaza Strip. From the first day, we've been hearing from Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that an IDF invasion into Gaza is about to begin. 2 weeks on, it hasn't started yet. Do you think it is wise for Israel to hold off this attack into the Gaza Strip? When do you think might be the right time for this to start? And once it starts, what shape and form do you see this ground invasion into Gaza take, Mr. Barak?
The objectives of operation are clear. We have to eliminate any military capability of Hamas and its capability to keep ruling the Gaza Strip. This objective cannot be fully accomplished through the air strikes and bombs and whatever. You have to deploy forces on the ground in order to make sure that there are no more launchers, rockets, munition depot, training center, command and control center, whatever, even office. And those who perpetrated this terrible barbaric attack on Israel will be identified and have to be accountable for what they did. So it's almost inevitable, I don't like the word inevitable, but almost inevitable to deploy these ground forces. But the operation is constrained by 4 elements. I count them shortly. One is the hostages, which are there, and they create very delicate constraint. Secondly is the risk that it will spread to the north, to the Hezbollah in Lebanon, probably some others, and become a regional war. Third is the international law. Israel is committed to international law, and in spite of the barbaric attack, we have to do our best to minimize the amount of innocent citizens killed there, because we need the universal support that we have now and the legitimacy of action to be kept as long as possible. And last but not least is once we complete the mission, assume that in 3 months or 6 months from now, no one can predict the length of the operation, we really control the Gaza Strip, eliminated any kind of capability of Hamas. Still, there is a question to whom we pass the torch. We do not plan to stay there for the next 20 years or so. So all these constraints are intertwined, interconnected, and develop in real time. So none of us can give a trajectory or predict exactly how and
Mr. Barak, I want to take all of what you said one by one, and I'll start with the situation with the hostages. 2 Israelis, 2 Americans have been freed, drawing global attention and emotion within Israel about the plight of the 224 hostages who, at last count, the IDF says are still with Hamas terrorists. In the past, Israel has negotiated for the release of soldiers. Does it make sense for Israel to be in some kind of a behind-the-scenes negotiation with the Hamas through Qatar for the release of these hostages, or do you think this is a time when Israel should absolutely not negotiate?
I want to complete the first answer, and it will explain the second one.
Okay.
Only those who are in control of all the details, the data, the nuances, and the real-time development can make the decision. We cannot make it on TV. So we put it at the head of war cabinet, added 2 leaders from the opposition. Both of them were commanders of the armed forces of Israel. One was even the Minister of Defense until a year ago, and we have to trust them. Now to your question. Hostages is very sensitive because we have a moral and basic commitment to them. They are there because Israel failed in protecting them before they were hijacked. So it's a very major consideration. Until now, only 2 of them were released. Of course, if there is an opportunity to wait another few days and get a major fraction of them, elderly people or women or children, something like this, it justifies waiting for another few days. But there is a risk that it will start to stretch in small pieces and basically becomes a weapon of Hamas through Qatar to avoid an Israeli invasion on the ground. That should not necessarily be allowed to happen because we have a compelling imperative. No sovereign can afford Daesh or ISIS-like organization to sit on its border and kill Israelis on this kind of volume. India is about 120 times the population of Israel. So think what would have been if within one day India would lose to organizations like Qaeda or I know ISIS or Lashkar-e-Taiba lose at one day, let's say 200,000 people. That's crazy. You would immediately act forcefully, and it cannot be the issue of the hostages, very sensitive, very high on our priority, but we should lead those who run the issue, the war cabinet, to make these subtle, delicate decisions. When to start, in spite of the fact that we do not have all the hostages in our hands.
Let's come to the second point you made about the possibility of this conflict expanding. We're already seeing attacks from the Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. We're seeing some attacks come in from Syria. We've also seen the Supreme Leader of Iran make a very strong public statement in support of the Hamas. Do you think this is likely to become a multi-pronged conflict like the Six-Day War, where Israel has multiple enemies that it has to fight at the same time? And can the modern-day Israel fight with enemies on multiple fronts?
I would say it's a 50-50%, not because I know something that make it 50 and not 40 or 60. I just don't know, and no one knows. It can't deteriorate. Probably the Iranians are prodding them to intervene. Probably they decide on their own to participate. But even if they do not want to intervene, and we have no interest that they will intervene, as a result of the daily exchanges along the border in the last week or so, it might deteriorate without any side like it to happen, into full-scale clash in the north. Now, there are 2 steps or 3 steps that help us to tackle with this challenge. Number 1 is the fact that immediately after the shock of the first 2 days, we mobilized over 300,000 reservist soldiers beyond the regular standing army. Number two, that immediately within 48 hours, Americans start to supply us with the airlift that is bringing munition and spare parts and whatever else we need. Moreover, President Biden sent one aircraft carrier group, now probably another aircraft carrier group, in order to make sure that it will be a kind of deterrence element to Hezbollah, probably deterrence for the government of Lebanon, while at the same time assuring them that they will be protected by the Americans, and even a signal to Iran not to intervene. No one knows. If it breaks, we will, the same way that we are capable of dealing with Hamas. It's more complicated in the north, but if it is imposed upon us, we will fight both of them, and we will win this war as well.
Now, American intelligence says that Iran was caught off guard with this attack. They say they have substantive evidence to suggest that Iranian officials were actually caught by surprise after the 7th of October. You're also a military man and a very fine commander yourself. Given the scale and precision of this Hamas attack, and you fought them in the past in Gaza, do you think the Hamas by itself is capable of pulling off an attack of this nature? Or are you convinced that Israel was up against not just the Hamas, but by military minds in Iran's Revolutionary Guards?
About the first question, I also read these reports. I don't think that Hamas asked for Iranian permission to launch this attack, as the Wall Street Journal or other newspapers in America wrote. Reason is that I believe that Hamas is afraid that the Iranians are more deeply penetrated by American intelligence and Israeli intelligence than the Hamas itself. So there was risk from their point of view that if they make the Iranian part of the decision-making process, they will lose the surprise vis-a-vis Israel. But having said that, the Iranians are helping them. They're helping them with munition, with training, with some kind of probably advising them about tactics or so on. But I don't believe that they need approval for them. About the other question, it's clear that the Hamas showed higher, probably better fighting capabilities and hiding capabilities and operational capabilities than we thought of in advance of 7th of October. So now we understand that they are a little bit stronger. But mainly once they meet, there are some 30,000 of them. Once they meet the heavy Israeli army, well-trained and well-equipped and so on, it doesn't mean that we can bypass the need to invest toil and sweat and tears and blood in any successful military operation, but I'm confident Hamas cannot produce an existential threat to Israel, and we will win over them, even if it takes several months. And the same applies to Hezbollah. Hezbollah makes it much more complicated, but once again, Hamas and Hezbollah together cannot put an existential threat on Israel. We will over both if they will make the mistake and join into this war.
I want to tell our viewers that Mr. Ehud Barak has known Israel's current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for at least 55 years. Mr. Barak commanded the General Staff Reconnaissance Unit, which is a secretive commando unit, where at that time Benjamin Netanyahu served in that unit. And Netanyahu's older brother, Yoni Netanyahu, was a commander of this unit who was killed while rescuing hostages at the Entebbe airport in 1976. And Yoni Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu's elder brother, was one of Ehud Barak's closest friends. So that being said, Mr. Barak, you've known Netanyahu for 6 decades now. What do you think is going through the mind of Israel's Prime Minister? Is his political career over because of the failure of the 7th of October? He's a survivor, he's a fighter. Can he find a way out of this crisis?
I cannot penetrate his soul as a psychologist or professional. And I'm not sure that it's the proper thing to do at the opening of a war vis-a-vis your television. Uttar Pradesh is a huge, highly respected state with a population that is about the United States, Canada, and Israel together. And I'm sure that the Hamas and the Iranians are listening to your TV. So I don't think, I don't want to analyze, but I might say the truth that Netanyahu is a very capable person, and he understands politics very well, and for sure he thinks on all alternatives. But he got the mandate to control from the parliament, from the Knesset, almost a year ago. But during the day of 7th of October, he lost the trust of the public. Polls that are running this week show that 80% of the population believe he is the main responsible for this blow, which is the most severe one that Israel has suffered since its establishment, about the time that India was established. And when you ask about what he should do, 70% of the population, including majority of his own voters, say he had to resign. Some of them say to resign immediately, some of them say to resign only after the war. But in Israeli mind, wars, the 6 days war was 1 week. The famous Yom Kippur War was 2.5 weeks. The second Lebanese war, a month. The longest operation was 5 years ago in Gaza against the Hamas, took almost 2 months. So Israel is thinking in terms of short wars. When you tackle them with the question, but if the war takes 2 years, some of them hesitate and say, yes, it should be delayed. Others say, no, he has to resign now. So he basically in the deepest crisis of leadership since he came to power, and he was the longest serving prime minister of Israel. I defeated him in general election in 1999, but later on he became once again prime minister, and is serving most of the last 15 years.
No, so you've been part of the street protests over the last 9 months, trying to stop Mr. Netanyahu's government from making constitutional changes to curb the powers of the Supreme Court. Now, we in India and many across the world are in awe of the human and technical capabilities of the Mossad, the Shin Bet, and the IDF. And the biggest question that's asked the world over, especially in India, is how could the mighty Israeli Defense Forces and the intelligence services, on whom so many books and movies are made, how could they allow for an attack of this magnitude to be launched right under their noses? What do you think went wrong?
First of all, it happened. So it means that it can happen, even to good intelligence service. It's a major failure of our intelligence. They should give us both kind of strategic warnings several months ago, and for sure a tactical warning the night before. It's a failure. As usual, as was the case with 9/11 and with our 73 war, you go backward even to World War II, to Pearl Harbor or Barbarossa. In retrospect, you will find that there were many pieces of information that were known but were not interpreted properly under certain conception, so that somehow Hamas is deterred and they are not capable to do something so dramatic. It's a grave mistake that we paid very, very heavily for it. It's also with, in spite of heroic operation of the soldiers on the ground and the first responders that came, and even civilians within the kibbutzim, within the villages, civilians with handguns fought against those heavily equipped terrorists. In spite of their heroic operation, it's also failure of our forces on the ground. So we will discuss it after the war. And in regard to the other part of your question, which I think was about the judicial reform. I am one of the harshest critiques of Netanyahu for this judicial reform that our living Supreme Court chief defined when it was announced some 9 months ago, 10 months ago. She said, this is not a judicial reform. This is a blatant attempt to crash the independence of the Supreme Court and push Israel out of the family of democracies. And I criticize maybe heavily for it, but more important in regard to the war now, the leaders of our defense establishment, the Minister of Defense, his Minister of Defense, the Minister of Defense nominated by Netanyahu, and the Chief of Staff, and the Head of Intelligence, and the Head of the Secret Service, all warned him in March, 7 months ago, that there is an imminent and apparent risk to our national security as a result of this emocran toward the legislation of this judicial coup d'etat. And 3 months ago, in July, they passed one of the laws, a series of laws from this coup d'etat, judicial coup d'etat, where once again the Minister of Defense, the Head of Armed Forces, the Head of Intelligence, insisted they have to tell the cabinet and tell the members of Knesset what are these national security implications of passing this law. And Netanyahu didn't allow them to do that. And that's a very heavy responsibility on Netanyahu, because first of all, Netanyahu is not American president, he's not commander-in-chief. In Israel, it's the whole government, he's just a first among equal. But more than this, because of the reason, everyone understands why Netanyahu didn't let the security or defense establishment to brief the ministers and the members of Knesset. The reason is, he understood that if they will hear the risk to the national security from this legislation, they would not vote for it. And he needed this law in order to paralyze the Supreme Court. And he needed to paralyze the Supreme Court in order to taking himself out of his criminal court case. He's standing a trial for bribery and breach of trust and fraud. And he wants to use, that's where his personal interest to get rid of his court case intervene with the national security of the nation. And that's heavy burden that he carries with him.
Okay, Mr. Barak, the US President Joe Biden has said that one of the reasons Hamas attacked at this time is because of the India, Middle East, Europe corridor, which was agreed upon during the G20 summit in New Delhi recently, and that's raised a lot of questions in India. Do you think that one of the reasons that the Hamas is attacked at this time is indeed because India, the Middle East and Europe were trying to come together in this corridor, and Israel's relations with countries like Saudi Arabia, thanks to American brokerage or partnership, was actually getting better, and Saudi Arabia would have had formal ties with Israel, and that's one of the reasons why Israel has been attacked by the Hamas at this time?
First of all, I have to tell you that the idea of the corridor and the initiative are very important, very positive development. We are thankful to Prime Minister Modi and for the Indian nation to stand by together with the other, or to be pioneers of this project. I think it's very important. I am not sure whether this was the reason, kind of the most important reason, or exclusively the reason. But probably, very probably, it was part of the reason. Another element which probably was more centered on the minds of the Hamas is the talking about trilateral deal between the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Israel, which might normalize relationship of Israel with a leading Arab country with a lot of influence in the Islamic world, while ignoring totally the Palestinians. Netanyahu was even proud of it. He promoted the idea that he succeeded in something that no one succeeded before him, to make peace with the whole Arab world while ignoring the Palestinians. So it was, in this regard, it was, once again, it's a theses that collapsed. Many theses of Netanyahu collapsed in 7th of October. One of them that you can make a peace with the Arab world without taking the Palestinian issue, which is an interest of the whole world now because of the long time. You know, you can ask your government in every close discussion with Israelis, they always raise the expectation that we will find some way to move forward with the Palestinians. And that will never be the same. It's a failure. Another idea that, yeah, go ahead.
So who should run Gaza after this military operation is over? What are your thoughts? You were part of the establishment after the Oslo Accords. Israel doesn't want to do it. How long do you think that military operation may take? Once it's over, given that the Fatah, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, is discredited, the Hamas was militarily strong, how does Gaza get administered later? What's your view?
I will tell you an anecdote. 15 years ago, I was Minister of Defense in Olmert's government. And we had every 2 years, we had certain round of clashes with Hamas, and they ended usually with understanding negotiated by or mediated by the Egyptians. So I thought that we have to probably use the opportunity, it was easier then than now, and to crash the Hamas and destroy their capabilities. So I was interested in the same questions that you just pointed to. Who will take it from us? So I came to Mubarak and proposed to him the following. Assume that at the next round, we will take over Hamas. And you can demand from us to withdraw immediately with no condition after some 6 weeks, let's say. We'll complete the mission. We will yield to your demand to withdraw with one condition. Condition will be that you, Mubarak, will arrange under Egyptian command certain multinational Arab force with some Moroccans, Omanis, Emiratis, whatever, Bahrainis, and you will take the Gaza Strip for limited period, let's say 3 or 6 months, during which you will act with backing of the Arab League and even backing of the United Nations Security Council to bring back the original internationally recognized owner of the Gaza Strip, which is the Palestinian Authority. And, you know, Mubarak told me, no, Barak, you conquered the Gaza Strip in 67, it's now yours, it's not mine. I will never, ever put my hands into it once again. So I decided to go to Abu Mazen, to the head of the Palestinian Authority. I found him in Jordan. And I talked to him. To cut a long story short, he told me, Barak, I cannot afford coming back to power in Gaza, sitting on Israeli bayonets, you know, the knives on the head of the rifle. And I didn't like the answer, but I should admit it has a Palestinian logic in it. So at the time, 15 years ago, it was impossible. But nowadays, after another 15 years of stable peace with Egypt and Jordan, after the Abraham Accords, just a few weeks from checking whether we can make even normalization with Saudi Arabia, probably it's possible. Nowadays, that if once we take the whole Gaza Strip, an Arab multinational force backed by the UN Security Council, probably by America and the EU, but financed by Saudi Arabia and Qatar, will take it and keep it for 3 or 6 months, during which the Palestinian Authority will be gradually put there on the ground and take control with them. They probably can stay with them for another 6 months to make sure that they are in full control. I think that it's probably possible. If not, there will be certain modification of this idea, but we do not intend to stay there forever, and we need the understanding with the Arab neighbors. That's another burden on Netanyahu's government, because Netanyahu has in his government a right-wing, extreme right-wing, messianic, racist party, which has a vision that backed by Likud, but not with this enthusiasm, to annex the whole West Bank, to make it full of Jewish settlement and so on, to block any way to implement the two-state solution vision. As long as the combination of Netanyahu, who lost the trust of the public, with these two nuts, I cannot call them other crazy ministers, they cannot enjoy the trust of neither the Jordanians nor the Egyptians, not even the Americans, because of their actual policies. And that is a heavy burden on any effective solution of the crisis once we already taken the Gaza Strip and destroyed Hamas.
Fascinating insights based on your own personal experiences. One last question, Mr. Barak, before I let you go. There's a big debate in global military and strategic circles at this time about whether the Hamas has thought through second-order consequences after this attack. One theory is that terrorists typically just think about the moment, the attack and its success. They haven't thought through what follows next. The other is that this isn't a normal terrorist operation. It's powered from behind by military minds, and therefore not just did they think through this operation, they've taken hostages back and they've thought through what comes next. Israel will be up against what's being called the Gaza Metro, the underground network of tunnels that the Hamas has. A certain part of Hamas's military capacity has been deliberated because of the Israeli attacks. Some part of the military capacity still exists. Do you think Hamas has thought through Israel's coming invasion of Gaza, or are they already massively military degraded and therefore may not be able to put up much of a challenge once the IDF comes into Gaza? What's your sense?
We are prepared for more than one version. We fully understand that if they planned for a year, about a year, probably a little bit more than a year, this whole operation, they were for sure took into account that we will respond by invading the Gaza Strip and trying to destroy them. So for sure we take into account that they well prepared inside the Gaza Strip, in the tunnels, in the command posts, everywhere to face us. But we still believe that, confident that our armed forces is more better trained, better equipped, and highly motivated now after this terrible event, and that we will win it. And probably it's coordinated with the others. Probably it's not coordinated. I said about any kind of stretching into a wider scale, it's 50-50 because I don't know, and there are only two possibilities. Either we deteriorate into a wider regional conflict or not. We are very proud and very kind of even moved by the immediacy, speed by which President Biden stood with Israel and gave his both physical support but also moral support to Israel, fully justifying the case. I should repeat it. No free nation, no freely elected government can sit idle after such an attack on its citizens happen. It is the very basic commitment of a government to its citizens. Before the right for equal opportunity or for opportunity to make living, the right for whatever, to pursue happiness. First of all, the first primary commitment of government is to make sure that the citizens are protected.
How would you describe the spirit of the Israeli citizens and the Israeli psyche at this moment? Some of our reporters who were in Israel the past several days say it's a very crushed people, just devastated by the attack and the magnitude of this Hamas operation. Common people simply didn't believe that something like this was possible, or that the IDF or their government would let them down in this fashion.
Yeah. That's the disappointment from the intelligence, from the army, and from the government. And there is certain deep uneasiness among Israelis. We now have removed people who are living around the Gaza Strip, and even people who are living along the northern border. So all in all, there are in Israel some 200,000 refugees, internal refugees, that we ourselves. And once again, it's the equivalent of 200,000 Israel, the equivalent of probably 30 million in India. Can you imagine certain terror attack that coerce you into evacuating 13 million Indians from their homes and putting them in hotels and in hostels and kind of generous people homes and whatever. That's a real shock. We will recuperate. We are a defiant species. We know how to unite facing a external threat. It didn't happen on this scale, but I feel this spirit of unity and readiness to fight that trickle into the whole nation, and I'm confident we'll go through, even through this crisis, and we'll end up stronger and better.
Ehud Barak, you're a legendary figure in modern-day Israeli politics and in the military, and you've lit up this conversation with your personal insights, the depth of your knowledge and your wisdom, and I thank you deeply for having taken out time for India Today and for speaking to us at this time of crisis for the Israeli nation. Ehud Barak.
Thank you. Thank you. The best to all your viewers in Uttar Pradesh and outside of Uttar Pradesh.
Thank you very much, sir. 81-year-old former Prime Minister of Israel, Special Forces Commando, Chief of the IDF, modern-day legend, Israeli politician, Ehud Barak there speaking to India Today. I'm slipping into a break. We'll have more for you when we come back on the other side. Stay with us. Back in a moment.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest Be Sustainable Change, a B&P Group company.
Colors by Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant. Colors by Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant. Colors by Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant.
Welcome back. You're with us on the NewsTrack. US President Joe Biden has dropped the biggest bombshell since the Israel-Hamas war erupted. He's suggesting that the Hamas attack could be the fallout of the regional integration in Israel, hinting that the India, Middle East, Europe corridor, which was red flagged during the G20 summit, could be one of the reasons why the Hamas chose this time to attack Israel. Was this regional cooperation between some of the world's biggest powers really the reason for Hamas's terror attack? This is a question that's being looked at very carefully in India after the American president's comments.
I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, as my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall. And we can't leave that work behind. And one more word on this. I continue to be alarmed about extremist settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank, that pouring gasoline on fire is what it's like. This was a deal. The deal was made, and they're attacking Palestinians in places that they're entitled to be. And it has to stop. They have to be held accountable, and it has to stop now.
So you've got the American president saying that one of the reasons, his gut tells him, that Hamas attacked Israel this time is because of the India, Middle East, Europe corridor. Is it conceivable that this could be one of the reasons? That's something that's being looked at very carefully in India. Why would the American president say something like this? To talk about this, we're joined by Ahud Barak, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. I've got with us also Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. So I want to go across to Sushant Sareen. When we spoke on the phone, Sushant, your view was that yes, it is quite plausible that Hamas attacked Israel at this time amongst various reasons, also because of the India, Middle East, Europe corridor. Can you explain to our viewers why you think that what President Biden is saying could possibly be true?
So Rahul, let me just clarify. Look, the preparation for an attack of this magnitude could not have happened between the time when the G20 summit takes place in Delhi and the attacks take place. That is just about 4 weeks. So you can certainly not do all the preparations for an attack in 4 weeks. This would have been months, maybe years in making. But I would imagine that the fact that in the G20 there was a major project which was unveiled, which was the India, Middle East, Europe corridor, which in many ways, at least in my view, is going to be quite a game changer. And a project which irritates the hell out of countries like Turkey, countries like Iran, countries like Pakistan, and many of these countries which have had some links or very deep links with the Hamas, and would like to muddy the waters in the Middle East, even though countries like Iran, for example, are kissing and making up with the Saudis. But the fact that parallelly, the Saudis and the Israelis were also getting closer together, and there was a lot of talk that they would normalize relations, they would recognize each other and have diplomatic presence in each other's countries, something which would have given a further fillip to the IMEC corridor. And I would imagine that maybe it is to blow that apart. So those projects and those developments have acted as a catalyst for bringing about this kind of an attack. The final preparation of the attack would have taken a couple of weeks, which is fair enough. But getting all those thousands of rockets, getting all the other infrastructure in place, that would have taken years. But I would not be surprised if what happened in New Delhi was the catalyst for this attack.
Abhijit Mitra, do you think that is quite conceivable that what happened in Delhi could have been the catalyst for this attack? Now, President Biden is saying, the conspiracy theory on this is that President Biden wants to ensure that India very strongly stays on board with Israel and the United States on this. While the Prime Minister came out strong in favor of Israel initially, since then the Indian government has been trying to ensure that they also seen in support of the Palestinian cause. And Biden, by saying this, is linking it with India, trying to ensure that India stays fully on board with Israel. What's your reading, Abhijit?
Right. So I don't think the IMEC corridor was the actual catalyst. I think that catalyst had appeared sometime before. We can't be sure when the order for the attack was given, but we certainly know that the actual forward deployment of assets and the forward, emplacement of the human assets would have taken at least about 2 months, but more like about 3.5 months. And one of the reasons for that is, we know from photographs and things like that how Hamas stores these rockets and how they transport these rockets. For 3,500 almost total rockets fired, almost 7,000 so far, for them to be launched on a given day, it would require several months because they don't transport these rockets in bulk, you see. That triggers a lot of Israeli human and electronic intelligence on the ground. So what happens is they have to be brought piecemeal, sometimes in different pieces out to different locations. And the problem is Gaza is also full of Israeli human informants. So, deploying a rocket at any given place for any length of time, it's a tiny place. People don't realize that Gaza is only 1/4 the size of Delhi. So, it's almost like the difference between inner ring road and outer ring road, all the way from, the Noida bridge to Gurgaon, basically. That's the size of Gaza. And in this, it's very easy for 2.5 million Gazans to find something and for one of them to be an Israeli and rat out a location. While the humans would have been prepared for several years, getting them together in collection points and things would have been much more rapid. But given that the rockets were used as cover fire, I think would mean that something else was the trigger. We need to remember...
What's your best sense of what that trigger could have been? While we're in the realm of speculation, but what's your sense in terms of probability?
I think it was a collection of interests. Certainly, Sushant is right when he says, that this IMEC corridor was probably the straw that broke the camel. I don't think it was a straw that broke the camel's back, but it adds to a whole set of interests that regional players have. Remember, Qatar has been cut out of this. Qatar houses the offices of Hamas. And Qatar and this particular energy alliance is oil and gas, solar energy, and data, in addition to goods. That would mean Qatar gets cut out, which is very dangerous for them. And it provides everybody else a very easy transport route, whereas Qatari oil has to, it has to circumnavigate the entire Arab Peninsula and then take its oil and gas through to Europe. It was very dangerous for Turkey because Turkey, again, has several gas pipelines running from Azerbaijan and Central Asia through West. It was very important for Russia, remember, because Russia needed some kind of a conflagration somewhere else so that American weapon supplies could be put into a dilemma. Do they supply Ukraine or do they supply Israel? Iran has a very important, interest in this, in that, you might say Iran might have no role initially because Hamas is a Sunni Muslim Brotherhood organization and Iran is Shia. And, the two hate each other probably more than they hate Israelis. The problem there is, it is classic Iranian tactic to allow somebody a victory so that they also take the fall. Inflict a huge blow on Israel and allow them to get hammered while you benefit geopolitically from Israel. So Israel gets hit very badly, but Hamas, which is your biggest sort of ideological opponent in the region, ideological competitor, not opponent in the region, gets destroyed.
Sushant?
So, it's kind of hitting two birds with one stone.
Given that the normalization of ties between Saudi Arabia and Israel has been put on hold for the foreseeable future, what does that mean for the future of the India-Middle East economic corridor? It was a very nascent idea in any case. Now that this war has started and Israel's actions are being questioned in the Arab world, to what extent does this push back idea, or could it derail the idea completely?
No, I don't think so. All my sources in Saudi Arabia...
One at a time. Let Sushant answer first. I'll come to you in just a moment, Abhijit. Sushant.
I don't think it will derail the idea, but let me just join issue with my friend Abhijit on the Iran question. You see, forget about Hamas. Let's talk about Taliban. Taliban was next door. The Iranians, for many, many years, continued to play footsie with the Taliban. They supported them, they backed them, they gave them sanctuary, they gave them support, despite the fact that the Taliban were an out-and-out rabid Sunni organization. The same thing the Iranians did to some extent with the Al-Qaeda, and they even allowed many of the ISIS element to travel through Iran into Afghanistan. So Iranians will also try and protect their own geopolitical interests when they identify an enemy. So their ability to deal with Hamas, even though they might not have an ideological connection with them, I don't think that is something which would hold them back from initiating an attack like this at a time like this. Number one. On the IMEC question, look, I don't think this thing is going to go away simply because, Rahul, I believe that this is a very viable and a very profitable project. It is a project that works for all the countries which are going to be part of it, number one. Number two, I don't think the Saudis are anybody's fools. The Saudis understand the game that the Iranians are playing. They understand that the Iranians want to push them into a particular corner where they then take the leadership role as far as the Islamic world is concerned. and the fact that Saudi Arabia itself is making a massive transition from what it was to what it wants to be under the leadership of MBS. The same thing is happening in the UAE. Look at the position that the UAE has taken on this conflict. Middle of the road, absolutely unequivocal in condemning Hamas. Probably the only country that has condemned Hamas by name and made no bones about it, unlike most of the others who've hemmed and hawed. Also talking about the humanitarian thing. So the UAE has taken a position. The Saudis have taken a position which is quite different from a position which they would have taken in the past. So I don't think that this thing is dead. For the moment, it is suspended because these countries also have to worry about the Arab Street. But moment things start settling down some, which could be some time, but in that time, I think a lot of the countries can continue to do the rest of the homework, prepare the framework, prepare the kind of the consortium arrangements, the kind of contracts, the kind of building plans, the kind of financial arrangements that will have to go into it. I think all of that work can happen even though the politics of it has still not been worked out.
Briefly, Abhijit Iyer, your response to the same question. Does this derail or delay the India-Middle East economic corridor?
It's the illusion of delaying. I believe that the talks are continuing just fine. The Saudi-Israel part of that, as far as my friends in Riyadh tell me, they've not stopped. They're being held in proxy through other countries. Look, it's going to be ready to go when this crisis ends. They're just waiting for the crisis to end, and then you're going to have an agreement that everybody's ready to sign. The biggest holdup in the Saudi-Israel peace process is the American security guarantees, which they're not willing to give at the moment. I would say that's a bigger issue than what Israel's doing in Gaza right now.
I'll leave it over there. Abhijit Iyer, Mitra, Sushant Sareen for joining me on the NewsTrack to discuss what President Biden said about the India-Middle East economic corridor being one of the possible reasons for Hamas's attack on Israel. Thank you very much. We'll track very closely what happens next. I'm slipping into a break. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We have two special interviews lined up for tomorrow. Big conversations, sharp insights. So I hope to see you at 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye, good night.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
Colors by Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant. Colors by Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant. Colors by Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant.
You are watching India Today, Powered by Finest, be sustainable change, a BNP Group company.
Get ready for an immersive journey into the heart of news, politics, and insights that truly matter. Join India Today now on WhatsApp with the #1 election team as we gear up for the upcoming assembly elections. Scan the QR code on your screen now.
Join India Today now on WhatsApp. Follow these steps. Open WhatsApp on your phone. Check for a new updates tab. Select Find Channel and type India Today. After finding the channel, tap the Follow button.
जब भी बर्न करते हैं तो उसमें कई तरह के स्मोक पार्टिकल और टॉक्सिक गैसेस जनरेट होती हैं, क्योंकि ये कंप्लीट बर्निंग नहीं होता है, प्रॉपर ऑक्सीडेशन नहीं होता है। और जब भी एक सही तरीके से कोई बर्निंग नहीं होती है तो छोटे छोटे पार्टिकल्स, पार्टिकुलेट मैटर और स्मोक और हार्मफुल गैसेस जनरेट होती हैं, जिसको हम इनहेल करते हैं। खासकर जो लोग बहुत प्रोन है रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम या इम्यूनिटी सिस्टम जिनका वीक है, तो उनको सांस संबंधित बीमारियां बढ़ जाती हैं, आँखों में जलन हो जाती है। सिर्फ ये नहीं है कि ह्यूमन को ही प्रॉब्लम है, जो एनिमल्स हैं आसपास के इलाकों में उनकी सेहत पर भी इसका दुष्प्रभाव पड़ता है।
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, be sustainable change, a BNP Group company.
Co-presented by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist.
Co-presented by हर घर का हीरो ग्रीन प्लाई का E0. Co-powered by the bold look of Kohler.
Good evening, you're watching News Today. I'm Preeti Chaudhary. Let me quickly take you through the headlines. US President Joe Biden like India-Middle East economic corridor to Israel-Hamas war, says economic corridor triggered Hamas attack on Israel. Enforcement watchdog raids multiple Congress leaders in poll-bound Rajasthan. Chief Minister Gehlot's son also summoned in foreign fund violation case. Congress cries vendetta. Ethics panel summons Trinamool MP Mahua Moitra in cash for query probe. BJP MP Nishikant Dubey and complainant Jay Anand Dehadrai testify. MHA likely to track Mahua's foreign trips. Pollution chokes national capital again. Stubble burning cases surge in Punjab. Aam Aadmi Party government claims no official data on reasons behind Delhi's pollution levels. Indian government to contest Qatar death penalty verdict for 8 former Indian Navy officers in alleged espionage case. India will explore all legal options next. With just weeks to go for Rajasthan to go to polls, ED heat is mounting on the ruling Congress. While Rajasthan Chief Minister Gehlot's son, Vaibhav Gehlot, has been summoned in an alleged foreign fund violation case, the enforcement watchdog also raided several other Congress leaders. Crackdown on corruption or political vendetta. Top story.
Enforcement Directorate gets into the act in Rajasthan. The central agency raided locations linked to State Congress Chief Govind Singh Dotasra and independent MLA Prakash Hudla on Thursday. Sources say the leaders are being probed in the question paper leak case. The ED has also summoned Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot's son, Vaibhav Gehlot, for questioning in a foreign exchange violation case on Friday. Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot has lashed out at the BJP and accuses rivals of misusing central agencies ahead of assembly elections in Rajasthan.
तो क्या है? ये मजाक नहीं है क्या? ये हमको गवर्नर ने भी हमारे रंधावा साहब ने कहा, कांग्रेस पार्टी उसके नेता कोई गवर्नर वाला नहीं है, चाहे वो कितना ही ईडी का दुरुपयोग करे।
Dotasra and Hudla, the leaders raided by the ED, are Congress contestants in the elections. The BJP has defended the raids on the Congress leaders.
अगर कोई गलत नहीं है तो डर किस बात का? जांच हो जाएगी, दूध का दूध और पानी का पानी हो जाएगा, फिर डर किस बात का है? क्योंकि चोर की दाढ़ी में तिनका है। आपको डर लग रहा है कि अब हमारा सच, हमारा काला चेहरा जनता के सामने आ रहा है।
The opposition has rallied behind the Congress, questioning the timing of the raids.
आज जब राजस्थान में इलेक्शन है, पॉलिटिकली फाइट करो, और कितना करोगे आप? कितना लोगों को जेल में डालोगे? जैसे इलेक्शन में कोई ना रहे बाहर में, वो भी करके देखो, आपका वोट नहीं मिलेगा।
Voting in Rajasthan is set to take place on November 25th. The raids have come just a month ahead of elections in the state, where the Congress and BJP are locked in a close race. Bureau Report, India Today.
The Congress has cried political vendetta. The BJP on the other side says due diligence. Let's take it to our panelists this evening. Joining me is Yashowardhan Azad, former IPS officer, Avinash Kalla, senior journalist, Aishwarya Mahadev, Congress spokesperson, Syed Zafar Islam, Bharatiya Janata Party spokesperson. Mr. Islam, let me come to you first. Interesting because in just the last 3 months, 15 times there have been ED raids on Congress leaders where Rajasthan is concerned. 9 of the closest aides of Ashok Gehlot, now including his son, have been raided by the ED in the past. The Congress, very clear, elections less than a month away, and the BJP is running scared, therefore trying to misuse agencies.
See, let Congress speak whatever they want to speak. It is nothing to do with BJP or the government. It is an independent agency which is, they are pursuing a case based on the evidence they have such leads, and it is an open and shut case. Everyone knows what had happened. Ask anyone on the street in Rajasthan and they will know that, they will tell you that there were paper leaks not once, many times, in fact 19 times. And we made noise. We asked them many times to conduct inquiries, do investigation, but he never did it. He initially tried to cover the entire episode of the paper leak. But if there is something which ED has, the evidence, it is their responsibility to pursue those cases, and they are pursuing this case. It is nothing to do with the election. It has nothing to do with any particular party. Anybody who has been involved in corruption is being, and the leads or the evidence which the agencies have, they will pursue those cases independent of which party they belong, which government they belong, which political party they have affiliation with. It is the crime which is being investigated, and this is being investigated by the agency without any direction from any quarter. Forget about our government.
But
so it is very unfair to make this kind of statement by Congress party of making this kind of allegation.
But Mr. Islam,
let the agency do its work. See the conviction rate they have and all the PMLA case. See all the PMLA case, 93% is the conviction rate. And when you say that the ED is targeting political parties or politicians, you have to see how many politicians have been targeted. The number of people who ED has investigated, only 3% belongs to a any political party. So only 3% of them are politicians. Rest of them are other people who have done crimes and being pursued investigated by the agency. So this kind of a statement only is to highlight or cover up their misdeeds, but it is our government is absolutely clear that there is a zero tolerance on corruption. Agencies will are independent.
You gave out some figures. You gave out some.
And they are
Mr. Islam, you gave out some figures there. Let me also now come back with, if you allow me. Now, you talked about conviction under PMLA. Well, only 23 convictions under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act have been secured as of now. Let's look at the cases under PMLA, though the cases have risen exponentially, sir. From 2009 in 2013, 2014 to 981 in 21, to 1,180 in 22. So the rise has been exponential. However, only 23 convictions, Mr. Islam. So the figures that you were giving are wrong.
See, I'm talking about last 9 years. Under PMLA, 54 cases have been registered. 31 investigations.
No, sir, last 9 years, no. The data that I have
been done is
which has been released by your government itself, the data says very clearly that...
Yes, I'm talking about the
Go ahead.
See, the data which has been put in the parliament.
Yes.
So 31 PMLA case which resulted in the conviction of 54 accused in 29 cases, where the investigation have been completed and conviction.
No, fair enough, but that's a micro figure.
You have to wait.
But Sayyid Zafar Islam, that's a micro figure.
So we have to. All I'm trying to tell you, Preeti ji, that you have to wait for the investigation to be completed, because it is not the government is doing anything. It is the agency.
100%,
it is their responsibility.
100%. We have to wait for investigation to be completed. But I'm just giving you. You gave a micro figure.
And let.
Allow me, sir. Allow me. I'll come back to you. You gave a micro figure. Let me give you the macro figure.
Just
from
10
that.
seconds. 10 more seconds.
Okay. Make your point.
All I'm trying to tell you that there are many people in opposition parties who are clean. They are not indulging in any kind of corruption. They have not been approached by any of the agencies. So it's not that the only handful of people from the opposition parties represent the entire opposition.
All right, so I just want to come back and I want to just extrapolate.
So this come.
Right, but Sayyid Zafar Islam, just want to extrapolate the figure that you also quoted. You quoted a micro figure. Let me quote a bigger figure. 2002 is when the PMLA law came in. Since 2002, there have only been 23 convictions. Having said that, in the year 2013, 2014, there were 209 cases under PMLA that were registered. Now that rose to 981 in 2020-21, which rose now to 1,180 in 21-22. Similarly, in the case of CBI investigations, 2004-14, of the 72 political leaders investigated by the CBI, only 43 were from the opposition at that time. Now the same figure, sir, has risen to 95%. Therefore, quoting these figures, the Congress and opposition has cried vendetta.
See, Preeti ji, first of all, you have to understand, number has no relevance. Number, in what context I said, where the investigation has been completed and the judgment has been pronounced. It is not our duty as a government or a political party. The judgment has to be pronounced by the court. If they have any problem, they should prove their innocence in the court. Instead of making this kind of a statement, because as I understand and everyone understands that no agencies will pursue any case unless there is some evidence, unless there is some leads. If there is some lead, they will pursue that cause. If you are innocent, you must prove your innocence in the court of law.
No, interesting. Okay, I get the point that you're saying, prove in the court of law, but just in figures, we gave you the figures of the CBI. Let me give you the figures where ED investigations are concerned. The proportion of opposition leaders from the total number of politicians investigated rose from 54% in 2014. 54% of all ED cases where politicians were concerned came from the opposition. That figure has now risen to 95% where the CBI is concerned. But these are figures, and you're right, they need to be proven in a court, by the defendants. But Aishwarya Mahadev, I want to bring you in. You might want to take the crutch of these figures and cry political vendetta, but let's see what's happening in Rajasthan. There are two separate stories, Aishwarya Mahadev. One story, of course, the investigation where the son of the sitting chief minister is concerned. On the other hand, where it comes down to the paper leaks, where your party leadership, your president of the Rajasthan Pradesh Committee Congress, Mr. Dotasra, is being investigated in the paper leaks case. Your very own Sachin Pilot demanded, when he was when he went on his own yatra, saying that he's not going to rest till the perpetrators of the paper leaks are brought to justice and the government needs to take immediate action. You should be welcoming this then.
Good evening, Preeti. I think first and foremost, Mr. Sachin Pilot in his press conference today has highlighted two very important things. One, that the case against Mr. Gehlot's son is a matter over 12 to 15 years old, which has been pulled up right now. So I don't understand if it's due diligence or malfeasance at the time of elections, one. And with the issue of the paper leak, let's be very clear. If the BJP or the agencies even had a whiff of actual wrongdoing whatsoever, as Mr. Pilot also cleared out, there would be some heads rolling, there would be actual decisive action. And because of the fact that they found nothing, and also give Mr. Pilot the benefit of the doubt, where he decided to wait to see if the agencies would find anything of any wrongdoing, whether it's your own government or elsewhere, we found that there's nothing. But Preeti, moving on from that, there are two very important things I want to point out, because obviously the BJP spokesperson has gone on to tell me that in 9 years, only 31 cases have been decided, but that is in comparison, 31 decisive cases in comparison to the thousands of people summoned and harassed and detained, shows you very clearly that these agencies are not acting on due diligence. Because if you look at the number of quashings in court, if you look at the number of reprimands...
Aishwarya Mahadev, what has the Rajasthan government done for paper leaks? Please tell me, in terms of investigation. And when central agencies step in, you call it vendetta. That's what many would suggest.
1 second. Central agencies have been stepping in since when? Have they found any decisive proof? From when has the CBI and the ED decided to act?
So nobody was responsible for the paper leaks?
Very simple.
A matter raised by your very own?
Preeti, there was an internal probe. Did they or did they not hand it to the state administration? Did they not ask for an internal investigation on this? Yes, they did. When the national agencies wanted to take over, did Mr. Gehlot say no? No, he did not. Did they basically allow the ED, CBI come in and take 15 times, more than 15 times, right? You've seen these agencies be active in the state. Have they or have they not acted? They have. Have they found any proof? Absolutely not. On the eve of elections, they're using this as a manner of harassment. But Preeti, one tiny point before you move on, and I am accused of hogging all the time on your debate. Let me tell you this. When they talk about this is not politically motivated, there was a huge case against Mr. Narayan Rane. There was a huge case against Mr. Himanta Biswa. There were huge cases against Ajit Pawar, the current sitting Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Praful Patel.
The washing machine analogy has been often used by the opposition. And, Dr. Syed Zafar Islam, I want to open up the panel, but I'll come back because there have been charges been made from your very own, on your very own. Of course, you don't have him in the party anymore, but your Shahpura MLA did suggest that Mr. Meghwal, the cabinet minister, is corrupt. There was no investigation internally also, or an inquiry called out where the BJP is concerned, and you're talking about the same Rajasthan unit. But Avinash Kala, to bring you in on this, for someone who's been covering Rajasthan, Mr. Kala, is corruption even an issue at all? Will it be a poll agenda? You're less than a month going into election.
See, corruption is an issue for sure. There is no denying the fact. Paper leak is a big issue. It is something that the government has admitted, the people in the government or in the party have said so. But the way ED has been coming in now in political circles and elsewhere, many people are saying that's a part of the election strategy, it looks like. Every time they turn it up and they target people. So, and they haven't found anything substantial. The state government has done its own inquiries. Nothing much has been coming out. But the way it is coming in, the way frequency has increased closer to the election is something that is questionable. Like in the paper leak case, this is their 7th visit. In the Department of IT case, they have come 4 times. In Jal Jeevan Mission, they have come 3 to 4 times. So they are coming in, they are probing. There is no denying the fact that they should not. There are corruption cases. But is this leading somewhere? That is the doubtful thing. They are not getting anything, and we cannot deny the fact that the paper leak cases and certain corruption allegations are going to be a big election issue. People understand the election, but people also question the motive with which central agencies have shown an urgency now to rush towards Rajasthan.
All right, I just want to bring in right now Yashovardhan Azad into the conversation. Yashovardhan Azad, the Congress very clear that, this is to crush political dissent. The opposition's rallying point, they've even approached the courts of the misuse of what they feel of central agencies. But in terms of sheer numbers, when you look at it, and we've quoted them in the early on in the show, where ED investigations are concerned, where CBI investigations are concerned, especially when we've seen the case rise with the opposition, leaders being targeted, there is then, at least for the opposition, to suggest that this is a witch hunt. Look at the numbers.
Okay, let me first clarify a few things. When you're talking about a conviction rate, it would be wrong to sort of lump in all the figures which the ED is investigating right from the beginning and say that there have been only 23 convictions. Now, the conviction rate can only be calculated from the number of cases the court has given judgment in which these are the convictions in these cases, and in these cases they have gone scot-free. That's one. But the other issue which is very important is that over the years, when the cases have been registered in so many numbers, then it is also important to see that how the investigations have been done. Which year, how many investigations are completed, how many were dropped, how many were challaned, how many cases in the charges were framed, and then how many cases are pending in court. So therefore, if the investigations are pending for a long time, it's a wrong thing. Because you cannot, in a democracy, you cannot just make people, appearing again and again. For example, if 12 or 13-year-old case is continuing for such a long time, then again, it has to be questioned. The second part which I want to stress upon is that you cannot say that the ED researches, raids are just manufactured out of the air. No, that's not true. There has to be some prima facie evidence. The question is to what extent the evidence is there on the basis of this, which wide searches and investigations are carried out. That's a very, very important matter. And where I will give a comment, which is true, is that yes, there seems to be more, it seems to be more exciting targeting the opposition, whereas the targeting against the ruling members is hardly to be seen. So in that respect, I would say yes. But Preeti, let me tell you one thing. The paper leaks are a scourge in the states. The number of youth, you asked a very important question, whether this thing is going to, corruption is going to impact Rajasthan or not. I'm surprised the number of youth who are being denied in Gujarat, in UP, in Haryana, in Rajasthan, in Madhya Pradesh, because of these paper leaks and the board exams. Even the PSC members are in jails. So this is something which needs to be looked into. Otherwise, it will remain only a political battle. But the political point is there. I would say in the end, they say that everything is fair in love and war. I think it's also fair in Indian politics that when the opposition is against you, institute cases. When the opposition comes into power, then that institutes cases against the new party. That's a sad thing. That's the reality.
Well, you're right. It is a sad thing. And Mr. Kala, I want to bring you in because let's look at the politics over the last 6 months, even where Sachin Pilot, he went on a yatra all across Rajasthan, stating that one of his biggest demands was that the perpetrators behind the paper leak be brought to justice. He also insinuated during that yatra that those people were close to the chief minister themselves.
Yes, he did. And he did rake it up. And based on his demands, there was a state-level inquiry that was set up. People were questioned. So the government did that part. But beyond that, nothing has come through. And I would agree with what Mr. Azad said, that paper leak is one of the prime issues on which the elections are being fought here. And look at the cases, as you would rightly say, there are other cases also in the state in which the state government has been demanding that a probe from ED should happen. But nothing has moved because that involves people from the ruling party in the center. So that is the disparity that is there for everybody to see. If there is a small announcement or a case that happens, ED comes rushing in. One of the BJP leaders walks into a mall and alleges that there is black money stored in here, and you have ED officers walking in by the evening. Whereas the entire state government machinery goes out and says there is an allegation or there is a wrongdoing, and nothing seems to be moving in the ED or any other central agency side. So this does rake up a question about intentions, and it is for the people to see.
And Syed Zafar Islam, that prompts me to ask you that question. In terms of optics, in terms of perception, you have central agencies, once again, maybe doing their job, in all probability doing their job, but questions being raised in terms of vendetta by the opposition, where they suggest that this is a witch hunt because like Mr. Kalla pointed out, you have a BJP leader walk into a mall, raise the issue of corruption, and the ED seemingly walks into that mall. However, you have a BJP MLA from Shahpura who says that your sitting cabinet minister is corrupt. Mr. Meghwal, he gives out details, but even an internal inquiry is not set in. Forget about any central agency coming in.
See, when you say that in all probability they are doing their job, I mean it's a very unfair statement when when you are making this kind of, you're casting aspersion on the conduct
None
of
at all, sir.
the agency.
I said they are doing their job, but the opposition will raise questions and call it a witch hunt.
You said in all probability.
Sir, I also said
so they are doing their job.
Yeah.
Yes, and they are doing their job based on, as Mr. Azad said, based on some prima facie evidence they have. The people will make allegation. In politics, people make such allegation without any evidence. If they have any evidence, they can always approach to the court and bring guilty to the court, and conviction can be achieved through the court. But those people just make the allegation because they have no evidence, they have nothing, they are just trying to mislead the people. In this particular case, paper leak, from same ruling party, forget about the name you mentioned, the former deputy CM, but away from him, there are many other MLAs within the Congress party, on the floor of the parliament, outside the they demanded that inquiry should be conducted, investigation should be conducted. But no one paid heed. When we put pressure on Mr. Gehlot as an opposition party in Rajasthan, then he initiated some inquiry, but only to cover up the misdeeds of his own people, and he was himself responsible for that. Okay. So let the investigation. All I am trying to tell you that let the investigation be over. We don't know what the agencies have, because they are independent agencies. They have some evidence. I will not make any comment till the investigation is over. I think these were demanded by their own people, and today when the inquiry, the investigation is being done by the agencies, they should be happy. They should be thrilled with joy. If they are not thrilled with joy, let me tell you, the youth and the parents of youth, they are happy, because these paper leaks make everyone very uncomfortable. 70 lakh youths are very comfortable and happy that this investigation is being conducted by the agencies, and guilty, those who are guilty, they will be certainly go behind the bar.
All right, but Syed Zafar Islam, as I bring in Aishwarya Mahadev back into the conversation, I'll ask you a question. 124 prominent politicians since 2014 have been questioned by the CBI in itself, which is an investigative agency. Out of them, 118, once again I'll repeat, out of 124, 118 come from the opposition. That would, possibly make it a 95%, up from what it was a 60% in UPA years of only opposition leaders being questioned. Do you think that's strange, or do you think it's because suddenly now we see a huge amount of opposition leaders who are corrupt and being investigated?
See, it is not relevant which political party you belong, whether you are part of opposition, whether you are part of the government. It is your conduct, what crime you have committed. And as I said, unless there is some evidence, they will not pursue agencies. If agencies are pursuing, then there has to be something with them. So if they have, forget about the 95%, 5%, if they have evidence against anyone, either they should approach the agencies or they should approach the court.
Fair enough. Aishwarya Mahadev, why run scared? If you're clean, you're going to come clean, go through the process of law, due diligence where the central agencies are concerned. Why run scared?
You know, Preeti, let's completely forget all about numbers, but a bypass mechanism that exists is called the washing machine of the Bharatiya Janata Party, where BJP leaders themselves, two examples, right? BJP leaders themselves were talking about Himanta Biswa Sarma's huge corruption in Assam, but the minute he jumped into that washing machine and became cleaner than Ganga, there was absolutely no talk about it. Praful Patel, Ajit Pawar, you have seen the sort of massive press meets that the BJP's had about the alleged corruption. But the minute they help form a government, sir, I didn't interrupt you. This is what happens to them. But Preeti, just one response, right? It is so unique that when the ED and the CBI decide to raid anything, it is not their spokespersons that come out, but the BJP, not even the government, but the BJP that justifies these actions with so much conviction, right? So I will give you one example. In Rajasthan, when the paper leak scam happened, did the state have an investigation? Yes. Did the state even say, ED, please come look at it? Absolutely, that is happening. By the same metric, when your own, because you spoke about my own accusing my own again of a scam, in the same metric, when one of your BJP leaders talks about a minister's corruption, a BJP minister's corruption, the Sanjeevi cooperative scam, for example, why is it that either of the agencies which are so proactive in ensuring justice because they are blind to political parties, why have they not gone there? Gujarat had a paper leak recently. Madhya Pradesh had a paper leak recently. The Patwari scam, if you remember. So why haven't these authorities gone there? At no point. The fact of the matter is the agency's credibilities are left in shambles because it's not due diligence. This is vendetta politics to supplement for the fact that the BJP is losing. So it is the Bharatiya Janata Party, the government mechanism, plus all the agencies to coerce leaders of the opposition.
But we'll only know if the people buy it and how they look at it when that last vote is counted, Aishwarya Mahadev. But I want to bring in Yashovardhan Azad back into this conversation. Sir, our team has quickly done the math on what you asked of where the conviction rate is concerned. So we spoke of 23 people who've been convicted ever since the law came into effect, which was 2002, the PMLA. Now, in that, the ED has filed, since 2002, 5,400 cases. Out of that, 23 convictions were there, and the conviction rate has come down to 0.42%, sir, which is less than 0.5%.
No, this is the conviction rate out of the total number of cases instituted by the IS. That would not be fair. You see, what would be fair is that the number of cases presented in the court and the court giving a decision. So that means if court gives a decision, say in 100 cases, and 60 of them are convictions, 40 of them are not, then the 60% is the conviction rate.
All right. Okay. Aishwarya Mahadev is shaking her head. Why, Aishwarya?
Sir, I am a practicing lawyer, and it is not only the courts, it is also the adjudicating authority. It is the PMLA Appellate Tribunal. It is the special court as instituted under the law. So it is basically your conviction at the end of the day. From the summons procedure to even instituting basically any sort of proceed before the adjudicating authority, you have had thousands of cases of harassment. You have seen the courts also quash a lot of this, saying these are infructuous matters. So the rate of conviction is still abysmally low for the number of cases or the processes they adjudicate. So because even if you look at the ECIR numbers in any of the zones of the
Mr. Azad wants to come in, and then I'll cut across back to Mr. Islam. Mr. Azad, quickly.
मुझे बोलने तो दीजिए आप प्लीज आई हर्ड यू देखिए कन्विक्शन रेट तो एक स्टैटिस्टिकल ऑब्जर्वेशन है जो कि पुलिस रिपोर्ट से मिलती है हमें यानी यू आर इंस्टीट्यूटिंग 5000 केसेस डू यू नो दैट वेदर दीज इवन 5000 केसेस विल बी पुट अप इन कोर्ट हाउ मेनी ऑफ देम आर गिवन द प्रोसिक्यूशन डज नॉट गिव अप फॉर सैंक्शन सो हाउ कैन दैट बी द कन्विक्शन रेट द कन्विक्शन रेट गिवन इन द जजमेंट is by the number of cases in which the judge gives judgment. Okay. Listen, it's all right. You can give your arguments in the legal way, but this is how we look at it. That is how the case credibility goes. But that is the credibility of the investigation, that there are 5,000 cases filed, but only 100 go to the court.
All right, okay, last, okay, Aishwarya Mahadev wants to come in for a rebuttal, but 20 seconds and I'm going back to Mr. Syed Zafar Islam. Go ahead, Aishwarya, quickly.
That's unfair.
Don't you think that is the problem? With the conviction rate being abysmally low, but the number of cases, for the 31 cases in 9 years that you've seen concluded with the ED, you see, I can give you 50 to 60 instances of my leaders being summoned across the board, which shows you the sort of manner in which these institutions are used as systemic machines of harassment.
Okay, I want to bring in Syed Zafar Islam once again into this conversation before he says I don't give him time. But Mr. Islam, I'm getting you back. I'm getting you back into this conversation. The fact is, 1 month away technically from elections, raids in Chhattisgarh, raids in Rajasthan. Should Mr. Kamal Nath be worried?
I mean, I don't know whether he is worried or not worried, and it is really not fair on my part to link the two, because agencies are pursuing their work, they are investigating, it is their job, they are simply discharging their responsibilities. But as far as Chhattisgarh is concerned, as far as Rajasthan is concerned, as far as Madhya Pradesh is concerned, in Madhya Pradesh, of course, Kamal Nath is a worried man, because there is a lot of resistance within the party, lot of people protesting within the party, and of course we are doing exceedingly well, and every survey now shows that we are ahead of them, far ahead of them, and we'll, as we go closer to the election, we will win hands-on in all the states.
We'll only know, sir, when that last vote is counted.
Rajasthan. So we are not. Yeah, so we have a mechanism to understand the ground reality. We get feedbacks from our Karyakartas, we get feedback from our Panna Pramukh, and we are very confident of our victory in all these 3 states.
Well, I'm sure, sir, because I'm sure the Congress would say the same. Aishwarya Mahadev, 20 seconds. I want to go to Mr. Kala next.
Preeti, you know that they are so sure of themselves in Madhya Pradesh that while they were sitting and dissing on the Congress guarantees in Karnataka, you've seen Mama Mr. Chauhan go announcing a guarantee every 3rd hour because they are running so scared. The Congress is a united house. Our recent yatra across the state has yielded wonderful results. People are sick and tired, and you're going to see change.
Aishwarya Mahadev, when did the Griha Lakshmi Yojana come in Rajasthan by your Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot? By that yardstick, the same can apply with what Mr. Shivraj Singh Chauhan did in Madhya Pradesh, your Chief Minister did in Rajasthan, not just the Griha Lakshmi Yojana, but also the cylinder for 500 rupees. Less than 6 months before election, Aishwarya Mahadev.
No, Preeti, the women's stipend is something that was brought in Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan from the minute they came in. Was the amount advanced? Yes, that was something that was done.
How many months? How many months before elections, Aishwarya Mahadev?
Power of the guarantees across, and the people and the social capital and the mobilization that it has seen.
Okay. I love the way nobody really answers the question that I asked, but we'll talk about everything else. But having said that, Mr. Kala, I want to bring you in for a quick word, and then we'll just wrap up this bulletin, this debate here. What does it look like, Mr. Kala? Corruption issues, especially the paper leaks, yes, it's an issue. We saw that resonate in Gujarat, but when it came down to actually casting, your vote, it really didn't reflect in Gujarat. Does it have that kind of traction in Rajasthan?
See, no denying the fact that the paper leak case has not got any traction. It is a huge issue. People are bothered. Now, which way will they vote? It depends. We sitting here cannot say. But go anywhere in Rajasthan, talk to any youngster in a village, they are concerned about the paper leaks. Year on year, the exams get discontinued, and it's heartbreaking. It is really heartbreaking. True. I've met many youngsters who say, we do this. But I'd like to make a small comment. It's an observation on the way ED has been coming in. It hasn't been able to come out with any substantive evidence to say that something has gone wrong. So neither has it yielded any big corruption or money or something, nor has it yielded any political gains for the BJP. None of the congressmen has crossed over the line like it happens in other states. So ED hasn't been able to deliver those results as well. And interestingly, for the Congress party, what it has done, it has acted like a glue. Today you saw for the first time all Congress people rallying around,
The first time Sachin Pilot held a press
first
conference.
Time all of them came together.
Yes.
Yes.
True,
So
Sachin
it is
Pilot speaking for Ashok Gehlot, that's a rarity. But
So
Yashovardhan
that is what I'm
Azad,
saying. It hasn't given the same political results that the ruling party in the center might have thought. And miraculously, it has done what the Congress High Command couldn't do,
I think,
is to get the party
Mr.
together.
Kala, I think, one should hold on to before we talk about any miracles in Rajasthan. You don't know how it really pans out. We'll only know.
But all these people talking about each other is nothing less than a miracle.
Well, that's true. Sachin Pilot coming in to defend Ashok Gehlot, well, we didn't know that we'd see that happening. But Mr. Azad, go ahead, sir. Quick word.
Yes, I just want to add one line, that the most corrupt in India always win very well, and corruption is never an issue. So I don't think paper leaks are an issue, whether in Gujarat, whether in Bihar, whether in Haryana or anywhere. It's extremely
But Gujarat they weren't. You're right, sir. Gujarat they weren't. We talked about it a lot, but really when it came down to casting the vote, it didn't really matter. Syed Zafar Islam, do you want the last word? And sir, I will ask you, you're happy with the time you got on the show today?
No complaints.
I'm glad, sir. Thank you for saying it on air. Any last word to you, sir. Last word to you. Last word to you.
To everyone.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Well,
go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Well, all I can say that instead of making allegation against the agencies, allow them to work independently as they are working. Have faith in them. Have faith in the agencies. It is in their time. Supreme Court had made an observation about CBI as a cage parrot. None of those observations have ever been made by the CBI or by the Supreme Court. But all I can request that allow them to work. We do not interfere. Unlike them, they used to interfere, and that's why they feel that we are interfering in their work. We do not interfere. They are independent. They will pursue their case independently.
Right.
Whether the conviction rate is X or Y, it belongs to them. They have to justify every single case they pursue.
Right. All right. I appreciate all of you for joining us. Thank you there. It's a conversation which is going to carry forward in days to come. Political vendetta, due diligence, we leave it for our viewers to decide. With that, we're going to go into a quick break. When we return, we're going to shift focus on the ethics panel summoning Trinamool MP Mahua Moitra in the Cash for Query probe. To stay with us.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
Colors by Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant. Colors by Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant. Colors by Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant.
Welcome back. In its cash for query probe, the Parliamentary Ethics Panel have now summoned Trinamool Congress MP Mahua Moitra on October 31st. Not just that, Mahua's foreign trips may now also be tracked by the Home Ministry. The two complainants in the case, BJP MP Nishikant Dubey and advocate Jay Dehadrai, have given their testimony to the ethics panel.
This parliament on hot ticket. What you have brought here?
Heat mounts on Mahua Moitra. The Lok Sabha Ethics Committee has summoned the firebrand TMC MP in the cash for query scandal.
Mahua Moitra को 31 तारीख को बुलाया जा रहा है, वो आए और अपने बचाव में अपने पक्ष में जो कहना था कहें। साथ ही साथ कमेटी ने भी निर्णय लिया है, इसमें IT मंत्रालय और गृह मंत्रालय को चिट्ठी भेज के उनका विवरण भी उपलब्ध कराने का निर्देश कमेटी के द्वारा दिया गया है।
Lawyer Jay Dehadrai, who filed the complaint against Mahua, deposed before the ethics committee on Thursday.
जो भी मेरे से पूछा गया था वो मैंने सच कमेटी के सामने मैंने पेश कर दिया। उसके अतिरिक्त मैं और कुछ नहीं कहना चाहता हूँ। कोई डिस्प्यूट नहीं हो रहा था। सब जितने भी मेंबर्स थे उन्होंने मेरे से बहुत अच्छे से और कॉर्डियली मेरे से सवाल पूछे। जो कुछ भी मेरे से पूछा गया उसका मैंने आंसर दे दिया। उसके बियॉन्ड कुछ नहीं हुआ।
अपना क्रेडिट लेना चाहती है क्या?
BJP MP Nishikant Dubey, who wrote to the speaker seeking a probe against the TMC MP, also appeared before the panel.
जो भी मेरे पास जानकारी है, कमेटी जो कुछ भी जानकारी मांगेगी वो सारी जानकारी देंगे और कमेटी जब कभी भी बुलाएगी, जिस समय भी बुलाएगी, मैं कमेटी के सामने हाजिर रहूंगा। कागज झूठ नहीं बोलता ना।
Sources tell India Today that ethics panel has taken a serious view of the allegations against Mahua Moitra. Sources add that BJP MP Nishikant Dubey was asked whether his complaint against Mahua was due to personal discord. Dubey is said to have denied the charge. Sources also reveal the Ministry of Home Affairs is likely to be asked to map Mahua's foreign trips. Businessman Darshan Hiranandani is an approver in the case and has submitted an affidavit to the ethics panel. He has alleged that Mahua posed questions on Gautam Adani based on info he gave on an Indian Oil Corporation deal that the Hiranandani group lost to Adani. Hiranandani also alleged he later used to post questions on behalf of Mahua using her parliament website login and password. Hiranandani claims to have given Mahua expensive luxury gifts and renovated her bungalow. Mahua Moitra has called lawyer Jay Dehadrai's complaint as a jilted excess lies. The TMC MP claims she is being targeted for raising questions on Adani. While many opposition leaders have backed Mahua Moitra, her own party, the TMC, has distanced itself from the controversy. The outcome of the ethics panel probe could have a far-reaching impact on TMC MP's political career. Bureau Report, India Today.
Meanwhile, it's that time of the year again for the NCR region. With a significant drop in its air quality, Delhi has once again started to grapple to breathe. As stubble burning continues in parts of Punjab and Haryana, air quality in the national capital as well as the NCR region, which includes Haryana and Uttar Pradesh, is terrible. Delhiites continue to choke, be collateral to politics.
Delhi is battling pollution like it has been doing every year around the same time for more than a decade. As stubble burning picks up in Punjab and Haryana, air quality in the national capital is worsening. Delhi's air quality index dipped into the poor category with an AQI of 256 on Thursday. In the adjoining areas of Noida and Gurugram, AQI was recorded at 269 and 176 respectively. Amidst the pollution came a shocking revelation. A much-hyped real-time pollution source detection center established by the Delhi government with an investment of 12 crore rupees has been shut. The center was established to identify the sources of pollutants that contribute to air pollution during these critical months. The closure of this pollution control hub raises questions about the government's commitment to tackling pollution. The Aam Aadmi Party government in Delhi, which used to slam Punjab and Haryana for the pollution in the national capital, is now changing its tune. After consistently blaming farm fires in Punjab for Delhi's pollution, Minister Atishi has claimed that there is no official data that reveals the source of pollution.
कोई भी आधिकारिक डेटा मौजूद नहीं है जो ये बता पाता है कि कितना पोल्यूशन कौन से सोर्स से होता है। इससे समस्या क्या आती है? इससे समस्या ये आती है कि कोई भी पॉलिसी बनाई नहीं जा सकती इस पोल्यूशन को कम करने के लिए जब तक सरकार को पता ही नहीं है कि कौन सा पोल्यूशन का सोर्स कितना कंट्रीब्यूशन कर रहा है।
The Aam Aadmi government in Delhi is pointing fingers at the Narendra Modi government for the shortcomings in the city's pollution fight.
The air quality in the national capital and the adjoining areas is dipping with every passing day, and this has triggered a major concern. Yesterday, Delhi Environment Minister Gopal Rai claimed that the DPCC chairman had ordered shutting down of the project which was supposed to study the real-time source of pollution in the national capital. On the other side, the BJP has hit back on Aam Aadmi Party, claiming that the Aam Aadmi Party government in the national capital could also blame Joe Biden for the increasing pollution levels in the national capital.
The national capital's AQI is expected to escalate to very poor or even severe levels if farm fires rise in Punjab and Haryana. This could cause potential health risks for citizens living in the city. With Amit Bhardwaj from New Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
US President Joe Biden has dropped the biggest bombshell since the Israeli-Hamas war erupted. He suggested that the Hamas attack could be a fallout of regional integration in Israel, hinting at the India-Middle East-European corridor that was green-flagged at the G20 summit in New Delhi. Was this regional cooperation between some of the world's biggest powers the reason for the Hamas terror attack? Here's more.
I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, as my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall.
Massive bombshell by US President Joe Biden, exposing a clear India link to Hamas terror strikes. Biden says he's convinced that the India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi was the immediate trigger for the attack on Israel.
I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, as my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall. And we can't leave that work behind. And one more word on this. I continue to be alarmed about extremist settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank.
You know, let's face it, the most powerful world leader at this point of time, he's got two big carrier battle groups in the region, principally, because of the rising Iran threat. Let's face it, it's not really just to help Israel. The India-Europe Middle East economic corridor being one of the triggers. I don't know if it's a principal trigger, but one of the many triggers, is not hard to believe. I wouldn't dismiss it.
India's ambitious corridor, a rival of China's Belt and Road Initiative, aims to link India, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan and Europe to Israel's Haifa port. Hamas is dead against Israel's integration and friendship with the Arab world.
The normalization of relations and tensions, especially between Israel and Saudi Arabia, sanctions lifted in part between US and Iran, the India economic corridor becoming a kind of, a sort of layer, almost an affirmation of that normalization process, must have been a strategic risk to countries like Iran that stand to lose, leverage and power in a region. Remember that conflict is power, and Iran has always represented that proverb in a very, very big way.
It was in September when Prime Minister Narendra Modi, flanked by President Biden and Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman, announced the game-changing India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor.
भारत कनेक्टिविटी को क्षेत्रीय सीमाओं में नहीं मापता। सभी क्षेत्रों के साथ कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ाना भारत की मुख्य प्राथमिकता है। हमारा मानना है कि कनेक्टिविटी विभिन्न देशों के बीच आपसी व्यापार ही नहीं, आपसी विश्वास भी बढ़ाने का स्रोत है।
Today, I'm proud to announce that we've finalized a historic agreement for a new India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. As a key part of this corridor, we're going to invest in ships and rail that extends from India all the way to Europe, connected by the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel.
Has the Modi brainchild to revolutionize global business come as a red flag for Hamas? With Shiva Roor in Israel, Bureau Report, India Today.
The Afghanistan team is going from strength to strength at the moment. They have already secured wins against England and Pakistan in the World Cup, all looking good for a few more. Their assistant coach, Rais Ahmad Zai, talks about the role of Ajay Jadeja in the side and how the IPL has helped the players. Listen in.
What would you want to tell those thousands of Indian fans that turn up to the stadium and cheer for the Afghanistan team? I know there are plenty more that watch it on the television and support the Afghanistan team. In the past as well, India has provided home grounds for Afghanistan. We see an Indian face in Ajay Jadeja in your camp. I see an Indian sponsor on your jersey. What would you like to say about this Indian support that you're getting during this World Cup?
Okay, so it's give lots of confidence to our players, the way they support us in Delhi or they support in Chennai. They gave lots of support, and it was a very we get a positive message from the crowd.
Just carrying on that Indian question, as you say, crowds turning up at that Chennai stadium was a big positive. The other big positive we get to hear is Ajay Jadeja in your dressing room. What would you like to tell us? What kind of a role is he playing behind the scenes in the dressing room in terms of, any advice to the players? Can you tell us about his contribution right now in Afghanistan team success?
It was a pleasure to meet Ajay Jadeja. I saw one of his innings in Chennai when I was young against Pakistan that he played, and we beat Pakistan in the same ground. And Ajay is a guy that he's happy. He's creating a happy environment in the pavilion, and he's giving good advices to the players. So we are very happy that we have a kind of a person in our management group.
How much has IPL played a role in development of these players that are playing? Not just the IPL. I know a lot of your players play franchise-based T20 leagues across the globe. How much has that helped Afghanistan cricket?
I think it's gave especially a hope to the youngster. Like Noor Ahmed played, a young guy. No one was very expect that a guy he will be picked by the a team in the IPL, and he will be do his best. So that means we have talent, and we need franchises like IPL, and it will give lots of confidence to the players. And these players spending time with the great players, and they are playing on different ground, on different conditions with different coaches. So they will bring that experience to our pavilion. It will help a lot.
With that, viewers, it's a wrap on this edition of News Today. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening ahead. We'll see you tomorrow.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant. By Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant. By Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant.
Get ready for an immersive journey into the heart of news, politics and insights that matter. Join India Today now on WhatsApp with the #1 election team as we gear up for the upcoming assembly elections. Scan the QR code.
Join India Today now on WhatsApp. Follow these steps. Open WhatsApp on your phone. Check for a new updates tab. Select Find Channel and type India Today. After finding the channel, tap the Follow button.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, just my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall. And we can't leave that work behind. And one more word on this. I continue to be alarmed about extremist settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank, that pouring gasoline on fire is what it's like. This was a deal. The deal was made, and they're attacking Palestinians in places that they're entitled to be. And it has to stop. They have to be held accountable. And it has to stop now. I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, just my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
Extra taste from Indian Oil. Cello, रिश्ता जिंदगी भर का.
Day 20 of Israel's war on Hamas terror. US President Joe Biden drops a bombshell. Hints at the terror attack on Israel being a bid to sabotage India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor.
I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, just my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall.
Is Hamas targeting the G20 global game changer? have ground operations been delayed? As artillery booms and airstrikes continue, Israeli troops move closer to Gaza Strip. But will Israel invade Gaza? That's our top focus on India First.
Let me now get you the latest in Israel's war on Hamas terror. On day 20, Israel has confirmed there are 224 hostages in the custody of Hamas at Gaza. Israel also says that their forces are now ready. A ground attack is imminent, and this has been said by Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel's also said that Gaza and Lebanese border evacuation can happen till the 31st of December. On the other hand, in the Gaza Strip, Hamas has called for mass protests against Israel's massive bombing, not just on Friday, but also on Sunday. Hamas also wants the Rafah border crossing with Egypt, the southern border, to be opened for evacuation of people. The United Nations has said that there is no place that is safe from Israeli bombing across the Gaza Strip, whether the north or the south. In fact, Libya has now taken a stance saying that all ambassadors should be withdrawn from countries that support Israel's war on Hamas terror. As far as the European Union is concerned, the EU has called for the establishment of a humanitarian corridor from where supplies can get into the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, both Russia and China, permanent members of the UN Security Council, they vetoed an American push for United Nations Security Council to act on the Israel-Hamas conflict. A strong anti-Hamas wording has been vetoed. North Korea, in fact, has accused Israel of committing war crimes in the Gaza Strip, and North Korea says this is happening under US protection. Japan, incidentally, Israel's ambassador to Japan met the foreign minister of Japan, where the Japanese foreign minister has sought a suspension of the bombing raid, something that Israel just doesn't agree to. Israel says anyone who's calling for the suspension of the bombing raid actually is helping Hamas regroup, rearm, and attack Israel once again. In the United States of America, the US House has strongly backed a pro-Israel resolution. So more weapons, more systems, and other supplies get into Israel from the United States of America. Joe Biden, the US president, has made a major statement. Joe Biden has said Hamas attacked Israel because of the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, perhaps apprehensive about the normalization of ties, or at least efforts to normalize ties between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Big statement made by the US President Joe Biden. So the statement of the US President Joe Biden, he's actually dropped one of the biggest bombshells since this war started 20 days ago. He suggested that the Hamas terror attack could be a fallout of efforts to integrate in that region, Saudi Arabia and Israel trying to normalize their relationship. He, of course, said that this effort had started during the G20 summit in India, where the conversation was about India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. This was on the 9th and 10th of September in the national capital in New Delhi. So this regional cooperation between some of the world's biggest powers and integrating this part. Now, China's not very happy with it. Russia not very happy with it. Several other countries, including Iran and Turkey, are not very happy about it. But could such a major terror attack have been triggered by this? Let's try and figure this out.
I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, as my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall.
Massive bombshell by US President Joe Biden, exposing a clear India link to Hamas terror strikes. Biden says he's convinced that the India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi was the immediate trigger for the attack on Israel.
I'm convinced One of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, just my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall. And we can't leave that work behind. And one more word on this. I continue to be alarmed about extremist settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank.
You know, let's face it, the most powerful world leader at this point of time, he's got two big carrier battle groups in the region, principally, because of the rising Iran threat. Let's face it, it's not really just to help Israel. The India-Europe Middle East Economic Corridor being one of the triggers. I don't know if it's a principal trigger, but one of the many triggers, is not hard to believe. I wouldn't dismiss it.
India's ambitious corridor, a rival of China's Belt and Road Initiative, aims to link India, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan and Europe to Israel's Haifa port. Hamas is dead against Israel's integration and friendship with the Arab world.
The normalization of relations and tensions, especially between Israel and Saudi Arabia, sanctions lifted in part between US and Iran, the India Economic Corridor becoming a kind of, a sort of layer, almost an affirmation of that normalization process, must have been a strategic risk to countries like Iran that stand to lose, leverage and power in a region. Remember that conflict is power, and Iran has always represented that proverb in a very, very big way.
It was in September when Prime Minister Narendra Modi, flanked by President Biden and Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman, announced the game-changing India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor.
भारत कनेक्टिविटी को क्षेत्रीय सीमाओं में नहीं मापता। सभी क्षेत्रों के साथ कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ाना भारत की मुख्य प्राथमिकता है। हमारा मानना है कि कनेक्टिविटी विभिन्न देशों के बीच आपसी व्यापारी नहीं, आपसी विश्वास भी बढ़ाने का स्रोत है।
Today, I'm proud to announce that we've finalized a historic agreement for a new India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. As a key part of this corridor, we're going to invest in ships and rail that extends from India all the way to Europe, connected by the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel.
Has the Modi brainchild to revolutionize global business come as a red flag for Hamas? With Shivarur in Israel, Bureau Report, India Today.
And I want to quickly bring in our finest team of reporters on Ground Zero in Tel Aviv. Shivarur joins me with more on the story. Shiv, how is Biden's claim or his statement where he says he's convinced there is no proof, but it's his instinct that seems to indicate this? How is it being viewed in Tel Aviv or in Jerusalem?
Well, I think Joe Biden is on the money here. I think what he says completely aligns with what many experts have said around the world and on India Today, that, a normalization of the atmosphere, the normalization of relations and tensions, especially between Israel and Saudi Arabia, sanctions lifted in part between US and Iran, the India Economic Corridor becoming a kind of, a sort of layer, almost an affirmation of that normalization process, must have been a strategic risk to countries like Iran that stand to lose, leverage and power in a region. Remember that conflict is power, and Iran has always represented that proverb in a very, very big way. A region in upheaval means that countries like Iran, get to pull the strings, get to control proxies like Hezbollah, the Syrian army, the Hamas, etc. If you have a region of prosperity that facilitates trade, economic prosperity, progress, and a sort of comity and bonhomie between nations that have otherwise been adversarial towards each other, that means that groups like the Hamas, the Hezbollah and Iran, the godfather of it all, lose that strategic power, that strategic leverage. And that is perhaps what Joe Biden is talking about. I don't think he's way off the mark. He says he's got no proof of it, but he is, let's face it, the most powerful world leader at this point of time. He's got two big carrier battle groups in the region, principally, because of the rising Iran threat. Let's face it, it's not really just to help Israel. It's also principally to be a deterrent against any possible direct hostilities shown by Iran that has been operating through its proxies. So the India, Europe, Middle East economic corridor being one of the triggers, I don't know if it's a principal trigger, but one of the many triggers, is not hard to believe. I wouldn't dismiss it.
Let me also quickly bring in Shweta Singh, our colleague who's landed in Tel Aviv. And Shweta, it's virtually baptism by fire. I believe there were reports of rocket attacks close to Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv and rocket sirens all through the day in central Israel.
Gaurav, 20 days have gone by. The people of Israel have learned to live with this. They rush inside whenever there's the sound of the siren, and then as soon as there's a boom, an explosion, that the rocket has been taken care of, they come back outside on these streets. Israel is alive, and Israel trusts its forces. But on the 20th day, I feel the biggest job that they have is not just to fight back those terrorists, but how to get the hostages out of Gaza, out of the clutches of Hamas. At the same time, they're also fighting a battle of narrative where the entire world can be seen divided into two parts, where one which is supporting every action of Israel, and there are countries which do raise questions. So Israel not just has to fight Hamas. Today we even got an update that they've been trying to mend the fence which was torn apart by the Hamas terrorists as they were trying to enter into Israeli territory. The surveillance system has to be checked. The responsibility has to be decided. Benjamin Netanyahu himself spoke about it. Plus, last night there are confirmed reports of the IDF actually going into Gaza and neutralizing a few posts from where rockets were being fired onto Israel. So while 20 days have gone by, it seems the battle is far from over.
Shweta and Shiv, many thanks for joining me. Let's throw this open for a wider conversation on what's the road ahead for Israel's war on Hamas. How's the world viewing this? Yigal Nissel is Chief Operations Officer at Combat Anti-Semitism, joins me on the broadcast. Sushant Sareen is Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. Also with me is Ambassador Prabhu Dayal. He's served extensively across the region. And I want to begin by asking you, Yigal Nissel, how do you view the US President's statement? The India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor was signed only on the 9th and 10th of September in New Delhi. These operations, we've been told in Israel, were planned for about a year, if not more. But was the signing of that agreement the trigger for this terror attack?
So first of all, thank you for having me. Without a doubt, it has a direct connection to the massacre on the 7th of October by the terror ISIS organization Hamas. And we all need to understand is that Hamas is a puppet organization from Iran. And as your reporter has said before, that Iran doesn't want to lose their power in the Middle East, the evil power of the Middle East. And when President Biden, with Saudi Arabia, together with India and the G20, announced this historical announcement for economy in the world, for people to go forward, for a future to our children, the evil country, Iran, and of course, together with the terror organization Hamas, and of course, Hezbollah in Lebanon, they could not accept it.
Okay.
And so, as the president has said, I think for sure, there's a direct connection between the attack itself and the announcement
so
of
you see a
President
direct connection. Sushant Sareen, an agreement that was signed on the 9th and 10th of September, training that, according to Israel, went on for a year plus. But in case Israel does commit ground troops into Gaza and the death toll, which has crossed 7,000 already in Gaza, mounts, will Hamas or Iran have succeeded in throwing a spanner in the works? Will Saudi Arabia also get involved in that normalization of ties between Israel and Saudi Arabia? Will that no longer happen in your appreciation?
Gaurav, first and foremost, I think the number of 7,000 is a little far-fetched. We have no evidence that it is indeed 7,000. We've seen dead bodies make phone calls also in images coming out of the Bollywood, as it's called. So I'll be careful on the numbers. But yes, I think there is a lot of devastation taking place in Gaza. And the way the narratives are being built around the Islamic world, there will be a lot of pressure on Islamic governments or Arab governments around the world to, take a much more forthright position on this conflict. Many of the Arab countries, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, even Jordan for that matter, have taken a pretty nuanced kind of a stand so far. They are not going ballistic as they would have 10, 15, 20 years back. And clearly, they are now operating in a new world and they're looking at a new world. There are other countries which, however, have a stake in the system to demolish whatever new was being built. So there is going to be that problem. And the more the war prolongs and more the casualties happen, that pressure will continue to grow. And I think that is going to be a trick. How do you manage the public narratives? How do you manage that war of narratives? I think that will be very critical in ensuring that many of the countries which are hoping that this is swift, quick, and you clean it up and then you go back to some kind of a peace process. Okay. Although I think that's also not going to be very easy, and they will go back to doing the business as usual. So I think for now it is a pause. But if this war elongates, if war widens, then I don't know, then all bets are off.
Ambassador Dayal, it's already 20 days. World opinion, is it changing with those images coming out of the Palestinian-held, the Palestinian Gaza territory, the body bags, the quest for food, water, fuel, which Israel says no fuel because that fuel actually sends rockets into Israel. How do you see this pan out? Is Israel losing global support, or America, England, they will continue to stand strongly with Israel in the days and weeks ahead?
No, I don't think that Israel is losing support from the countries which were supporting it initially. In fact, global opinion is becoming more polarized. It was already polarized due to the Russia-Ukraine war, and this process of polarization has accentuated on account of the Hamas-Israel war. Now, let me categorically state that there are a number of countries which feel very, very strongly about the Hamas terrorist attack on Israel. A terrorist attack cannot be condoned in any manner whatsoever. However, there are countries which were able to give it a sort of a religious twist and make it an Islam versus Judaism contest. Well, there are a few takers. Okay. This narrative surely has been promoted by certain interested parties, the Hamas itself, Iran, even countries like Qatar. But there is no doubt that the growing integration of Israel into this region is something that has begun to worry countries like Iran, countries like Qatar, and of course, the opponents of Israel wherever they are. And that is why when President Biden said that the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, the announcement of it, could have triggered it off. I think he may be right, because the connection between India and Europe will pass through 4 Middle Eastern countries: UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan. And Israel. Out of these, UAE and Jordan already have diplomatic relations with Israel. Saudi Arabia is in the process of having talks and could normalize relations.
Yigal Nessil, has the United States actually asked Israel to press the pause button on the aerial bombing and on ground troops going into the Gaza Strip till the US has more THAAD missile defense systems and Patriot missile defense systems in the area? Is there an apprehension this battle could widen and Israel could use other proxies even to target the US like it already is in Syria and in Iraq?
So without a doubt, the United States of America is our strongest allies, and we of course see Biden and his government and the army as our very close advisors, and we listen to them. But let me just make it clear that they don't tell us what to do. Friends doesn't tell to other friends what to do. They give us advice. And of course, we listen to some of it, but in the end, this is our country, Israel. In the end, we need to defend this country. And without a doubt, when President Biden is advising us, we of course listen to this. We can tell you that Prime Minister Netanyahu and his government is looking for many aspects how to make sure that this war will end by Hamas will be destroyed. Point. This is what we need. We need Hamas to be destroyed, not only in Israel, also their money resources, also the leaders from living in different places in the world. We need to make sure for our children that Hamas will not exist anymore.
No,
and
but
that's why
how do you identify? Will you just take down leaders? Will you take down fighters? And how do you know who's a fighter and who's a Palestinian civilian? With the death toll mounting, aren't you increasingly coming under pressure with even allies now saying, press the pause button, let relief supplies go in?
So first of all, we are the only democracy in the Middle East, and we have one of the most moral armies in the world. Every attack that we do in Gaza, it's a defense attack, and we make sure we notify each building before to tell the residents to leave, and we also making sure that they're moving from one place to another to a safe place to make sure that the civilians will be separate than the terrorists. But I want to make sure one thing that everybody will understand, and I know that our friends in India understand that as well. We are in a war. This is about Israel's future. And in a war, sometimes, unfortunately, innocent people lose their life. But I want to make sure that everybody understands that. This is not because of Israel. This is because Hamas take them as hostage against us.
So, Shansarine, that's the point Israel repeatedly makes. If Hamas has been elected by the people of Gaza Strip, in whatever manner that election was had taken place, Hamas is responsible for the people of Gaza Strip. If Hamas returns the hostages, the bombing may stop. Is that an argument that's acceptable?
No, I don't think even if the Hamas was to return the hostages, the bombing would stop entirely, or the objectives of the state of Israel would change insofar as Hamas is concerned, at least insofar as Gaza is concerned. Maybe they'll keep hunting down the Hamas guys if they were to run away from Gaza and go into some other place and take refuge in some other country. But I think Israel simply cannot afford to let Hamas have a presence in Gaza anymore. So that objective is not going to change. Yes, it is possible that, there could be some kind of a pause, for example, if the hostages are going to be released. And I think that's going to be a very important negotiating point. But I also would think, Gaurav, you've been there, you've seen what Hamas did, the savagery and the barbarism of Hamas. After that, I'm not entirely convinced if the hostages, keeping the hostages is going to stop the Israeli attack on Hamas. I don't think that's a negotiating tactic or a negotiating tool that Hamas can take very far. I don't think it's going to stop the Israeli juggernaut.
I have the last 30 seconds on this part of the broadcast. Ambassador Dayal, in your appreciation, will Israel commit ground forces, or will Israel continue with these airstrikes and artillery strikes till the time the hostages are released? And many could be in tunnels. And are these bombs penetrating those tunnels, which may be 100 feet deep?
Well, Israel will certainly continue the aerial strikes. But please recall, Netanyahu pledged that he would end Hamas, that he would destroy Hamas. So after he feels that the aerial strikes have done their job, certainly ground forces are likely to go ahead.
Fair enough. We will continue this debate in the days and weeks ahead. To all my guests for joining me here on India First, many thanks. A quick break. Business Today with Sakshi Batra up next. Stay with us.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
Get ready for an immersive journey into the heart of news, politics, and insights that matter. Join India Today now on WhatsApp. Scan the QR code.
I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, just my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall. And we can't leave that work behind. And one more word on this. I continue to be alarmed about extremist settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank, that pouring gasoline on fire is what it's like. This was a deal. The deal was made, and they're attacking Palestinians in places that they're entitled to be. And it has to stop. They have to be held accountable. And it has to stop now. I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, just my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall.
Governs the Gaza Strip stores fuel, both diesel fuel and other types of and benzene and other types of fuel. It's all inside the Gaza Strip, and there's enough for many days for hospitals and water pumps to run. Only the priorities are different. Hamas prefers to have all of the fuel for its warfighting capabilities, leaving civilians without it, and then international organizations ask for help. But who are they asking from? Are they asking Hamas, who has access to the fuel and governs the Gaza Strip, or are they blaming Israel or asking Egypt? I think that it's very important that they point their questions and their requests to the ones who can actually help them and actually govern the Gaza Strip. And that is Hamas, not Israel and not Egypt.
What they say to me is I have no notion that the Palestinians are telling the truth about how many people are killed. I'm sure innocents have been killed, and it's the price of waging a war. I think we should be incredibly careful. I think not we, the Israelis should be incredibly careful to be sure that they're focusing on going after the folks that are propagating this war against Israel. And it's against their interest when that doesn't happen. But I have no confidence in the number that the Palestinians are using. I continue to be alarmed about extremist settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank, that pouring gasoline on fire is what it's like. This was a deal. The deal was made, and they're attacking Palestinians in places that they're entitled to be. And it has to stop. They have to be held accountable. And it has to stop now. I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, just my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall.
Hello and welcome. You're watching the Business Today show with me, Sakshi Batra. First up, the top news we're tracking for you tonight. Markets fall for a sixth consecutive day. Sensex down over 900 points, loses 3,280 points in 6 days. Tech Mahindra, Bajaj Twins, HDFC Bank and M&M lead the fall today. IT, metals and banking sectors tumble the most. SEBI walks the talk on Fin influencers, slaps a massive 17 crore rupee fine on Bapov chart, bars proprietor from trading in stocks. Government likely to miss this year's disinvestment goal by a large margin. Just 8,000 crore rupees collected in disinvestment receipts versus this fiscal's target of 51,000 crore rupees. Further disinvestments unlikely before general elections. Government finally pays heed to the tens of thousands of complaints against airlines and agents. Top travel industry honchos summoned by the Ministry of Consumer Affairs on the 8th of November. Ayodhya is sold out. Just 24 hours after the official date for Ram Mandir consecration is announced, hotels are already booked, with room tariffs zooming to 4 times that of normal. A special ground report for you. Straight on to the top story tonight then. Ayodhya is sold out. Even as the date of the Ram Mandir consecration was announced, hotels in the holy city are already sold out. And if you are still interested in traveling to Ayodhya to witness the very special occasion, you will have to contend with room rates which have skyrocketed more than 4 times. Here's a ground report from our correspondent Abhishek Mishra.
As the date of the inauguration of the Grand Ram Temple in Ayodhya has been announced, now Ayodhya is preparing itself in all terms so that the people who will be coming to Ayodhya will get the accommodation. It will also give a boost to the economy of Ayodhya. I'm here right now at one of the hotels here at the highway of Ayodhya, and which is now preparing itself for the big day, because the number of guests have increased now. As far as the rates are concerned, that has also gone up to 4 times the normal rate which was there. Now also it is very important is that the hotels, the resorts, the restaurants, the new accommodation are being prepared here in Ayodhya, so that when the footfall will increase in Ayodhya, the number of devotees who will be coming here, the guests from all over the India and international guests who are also coming, for them also this accommodation is going to be very important.
It's confirmed. The Ayodhya temple will open its doors to the world on 22nd January. And if you want to be there on the big day, you may already be too late. The hotels are either already booked or are witnessing an unprecedented spike in traffic.
For every traveller and the tourist who will be coming to Ayodhya, the first concern would be to get a room reserved for himself or for the family. But that's going to be a major challenge this time, because on 22nd of January, most of the hotels in Ayodhya are already sold out. Now, I'm here at one of the hotels at the reception area, and you can see how, they're already getting a lot of inquiries as far as that date is concerned. And I mean, if you look at the kind of work pressure which they have right now is intense, and they're also getting a lot of inquiries, specifically for the 22nd of January, the important day.
Take Hotel Hanumanji. A room which normally goes for around 1,900 rupees a night is being offered at more than 8,000 rupees on 20th to 25th January. Hotel Neelkant has raised its tariff to more than 10,000 rupees from 1,700 rupees. The Ayodhya Palace is selling at about 16,000 for a night instead of the normal 3,700 rupees. The KK Hotel has jacked up its rates around 3 times, as has trim room Shubharam.
We are part of the Ramayana Hotel, so we already sold it up in January.
It's already sold out?
So already sold out in month of December, the previous year.
Interestingly, it's not only Ayodhya which has seen tariffs skyrocket. Tourists and pilgrims are booking hotels as far as Lucknow, which is around 3 hours away from the holy city.
It's already sold out, so if you also want to have a visit to Ayodhya on that auspicious day, go right now. log into the websites and get your seats and hotel rooms confirmed, because Ayodhya is frequently getting sold out and there is a lot of rush as far as the inauguration of the Grand Ram Temple is concerned. In Ayodhya with cameraman Sandeep Abhishek Mishra for India Today.
And SEBI has brought down its regulatory hammer on one of India's most prominent fin influencers, Mohammad Nasiruddin Ansari, who goes by his social media alias Bap of Chart, who has been barred by the securities trading regulator and has also been fined a whopping 17.2 crore rupees. Investigations have found out that Ansari dished out stock recommendations in the garb of financial training, and this is what happened to him.
He's created an image of himself as a superstar, a financial wizard who has people hanging on to every word of his. Now the house of cards, built painstakingly by Mohammad Nasiruddin Ansari, has been brought down by the capital markets regulator. As part of its continuing its efforts to rein in the so-called finfluencers, internet influencers who provide financial advice and recommendations to ordinary investors, SEBI barred Ansari from buying, selling or dealing in the securities market. SEBI found that on the pretext of providing educational training related to the share market, Ansari was giving stock recommendations through social media platforms to investors with a promise of guaranteed returns. SEBI also ordered Ansari to pay back 17.2 crore rupees which he had made by allegedly misleading investors and influencing them to deal in securities.
आज हम ये सीखेंगे कैसे आप स्टॉक मार्केट से
Ansari runs a company and social media channels Bap of Chart. He promoted himself as a stock market expert on various social media platforms, inviting investors to enroll for educational courses, promising them profits if they followed his stock recommendations. SEBI found that Ansari was providing stock recommendations on various social media platforms such as YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp and Telegram. He asked investors to enroll for his educational courses offered through a website and apps available on Google Play and Apple's App Store. According to SEBI, Ansari was selling 19 courses relating to the securities market, including 4 that promised investors assured returns. Students connected with so-called tutors through chat apps and were given information in real time. The investigation also found that Ansari provided buy-sell recommendations in private groups to his clients. The YouTube channel of Ansari has more than 4.43 lakh subscribers and more than 7 crore views from 1100 videos. He also operates a Telegram channel called Bap of Chart Option Hedging, which has around 53,000 subscribers. The Instagram and X accounts of Bap of Chart have around 59,000 and 78,000 followers respectively. His WhatsApp channel has more than 13,000 followers. SEBI has in the past few months been slowly but surely turning the screws on finfluencers who till recently had a free rein on social media. In August, the regulator sought comments from the public on regulation that will thwart the activities of investment advisors and market analysts who are not registered with it. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
And now let's take a look at how the stock markets performed in trade today. Well, it was a bloodbath on Dalal Street today. The markets fell for the 6th consecutive session. Investors lost about 3 lakh crore rupees today, making investors poorer by 17.8 lakh crore rupees in just the last 6 trading sessions. Investors have been concerning about regarding inflation, higher interest rates, the fear of possible recession, and all of these have been hovering as dark clouds over the market sentiments. Remember, benchmark indices have also fallen 2% in trade today. The Sensex was down over 900 points to settle the day at 63,148. while the Nifty closed the day at 265 points lower at 18,857 mark. Only 4 stocks on the Nifty index: Axis Bank, Adani Ports, HCL Technologies and Power Grid. These were the only stocks that barely managed to keep their heads up in an otherwise weaker sentiment, while the top laggards on the Nifty included names such as M&M, Bajaj Finance, Asian Paints, UPL and also Nestle. All of these were down over 3% each. Well, let's slip into a very short break right now, but when we return, airlines to be taken to task by Consumer Affairs Ministry and a sneak peek at the new Maruti Suzuki Swift.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
क्या राजनीति से प्रेरित ये काम लग रहा है, क्या कहेंगे इसको?
चुनाव के समय इनको सब याद आता है, ईडी, सीबीआई। हम तो शुरू से कहते आए हैं, जहाँ जहाँ चुनाव होता है जिस जिस राज्य में, वहाँ पे केंद्र की भाजपा सरकार ईडी को साथ साथ ही भेजती है चुनाव की तारीखों के साथ ही। और जिस तरीके से आज हमारे प्रदेश अध्यक्ष जी को और मुझे सम्मान करके दिल्ली बुलाया है, मैं पहले भी कह चुका हूं कि ये मामले पहले 12 साल पहले भी आए थे। 12 साल पहले भी हमने इन्हीं आरोपों का जवाब दिया था और अब भी देखे आएंगे।
विधानसभा चुनाव नजदीक आ रहे हैं, इसका यही लगता है?
हाँ,
तो बेसिर पैर की बात भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लोग कर रहे हैं, उनको करना तो कुछ है नहीं। मैं तो इतना ही कहता हूं भाजपा के सभी लीडर से, जो दिल्ली सरकार कर रही है, यूपी और हरियाणा दोनों हमारे पड़ोसी हैं, उन राज्यों में केवल उन्हीं को काम करवा दें, उतना ही हमें निवेदन कर रहा हूँ, ज्यादा नहीं, उससे ज्यादा की अपेक्षा ही नहीं है मुझे। दिल्ली में पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट CA ने भी ऑब्जर्वेशन दे दिया, दिल्ली में CNG की बस चलती है तो देखा होगा सबने, अब इलेक्ट्रिक बस भी आ गई है, वो भी देखा होगा। यूपी और हरियाणा में कौन सी बस चलती है? सारी जो यूपी हरियाणा की भाजपा की जो बसें आ रही हैं भाजपा सरकार की, वो किस चीज के? डीजल की धुआं छोड़ती हैं। भाई CNG बस तो करा दो, इलेक्ट्रिक तो करा दो। इतना काम नहीं हुआ 10 साल में।
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Welcome back. You're watching the Business Today show with me, Sakshi Batra. Well, IT giant Tech Mahindra saw its consolidated net profit tumble by 61% year-on-year to 494 crore rupees. Revenues declined by 2% to 12,864 crore rupees from a year ago. The company has also declared a dividend of 12 rupees a share with the 2nd of November as the record date. Business Today Television's managing editor, Siddharth Zarabi, spoke to the top management of Tech Mahindra about the reasons behind the drop and the outlook going forward.
Is this really a case of a sharp cut in discretionary spends by your clients given what is happening in the global economy?
There is a weakness that we are seeing overall in IT services, which has been faced by all of our peers as well. And if you look at our own very specific portfolio mix, then the telecom unit has been the most impacted globally. It is the one industry which has been facing a lot of the headwinds across the world.
Rohit, take us through the numbers, Rohit, in terms of breaking down the revenue performance.
That in the quarter, the way to look at the revenue breakdown is 1% of the drop can be attributable to discretionary spend cut, majority of that coming from the communication segment. The other 140 basis point quarterly sequentially declines driven by more our strategy to define our core and where we want to focus from a long-term perspective. In line with that, we've taken calls on stopping businesses in certain geographies, regions, product lines, and ending contracts that don't end up into that core portfolio. Basis that, we've had an impact on the revenue for the quarter, and that's also percolated out to margin. So that's the way to break up the impact on revenue.
How long will this portfolio rationalization continue? If I understood your answer correctly, that's what you seem to be hinting at, that the portfolio rejig is likely to continue for the near future.
Yeah, I think the way we're thinking about it is it's an opportunity for us to reboot in terms of where we are from a tough industry dynamic perspective. We're taking this time to relook at the organization, and a part of that, we've started the exercise this quarter. Will continue as we get into the Q3 as well, this is a part of our long-term strategy which we'll define, and Mohit will come out and share with all of you sometime towards April. So from an actions perspective, we feel that at least defining our core and taking actions on the non-core side, we will get towards a good handle around towards the Q3 end.
Mohit Joshi, coming to you, from a sort of overall perspective, given what's happening to the entire IT space, and Tech Mahindra viewers is not alone in this regard, how long do you expect an uncertain environment likely to prevail for the IT sector? How many more quarters of pain, Mohit Joshi?
Look, I think it's hard to say because over the past few quarters and a past few months, there's been a lot of volatility, right? There's been a lot of volatility in the outlook. And again, given everything that is happening from a geopolitical perspective, the big questions are hard to answer, right? Have we finally seen peak inflation? Have we seen peak interest rates? Is there likely to be sustained growth from the 1st of January onwards? What path will the US economy take? These are harder questions to answer. But if we go beyond a quarter or two, right, I'm very confident that at the end of the day, the spend on enterprise tech and the kind of work that a company like TechM does, right, the deep expertise that we have in engineering, the deep expertise that we have in sectors like telecom and manufacturing, the emerging strength that we have in healthcare, financial services, in retail, the demand for tech services amplified by the demand for the cloud, amplified by the demand that we're seeing from a Gen AI perspective. I have no doubt that while we may have volatility for a quarter or two or three, in the long run, the outlook for the sector and the outlook for strong companies like TechM is very positive.
Whenever the recovery happens, what vertical is likely to lead that recovery?
Well, if you look at it from the perspective of now, right, if you look at it now, I think our manufacturing business has stayed extremely strong and very resilient globally. Now, there are a few pressures that we're seeing because of, the auto strikes, for instance, in the US. But overall, manufacturing has stayed resilient through the downturn, and I have no doubt that that is a sector that will stay strong. Healthcare, both payer and provider, again has remained resilient through the downturn, and I have no doubt that given the aging population, given the fact that this sector has really been a laggard from a tech perspective, that will continue to drive growth. I'm also in the medium to long term optimistic about telecoms, right? It is too important a sector and is too central to the global economy to be down forever. So I'm hopeful that, we will see a medium term pickup in the sector as well.
Airlines and travel intermediaries have been put on a notice by the Consumer Affairs Ministry. The ministry has summoned airlines and e-commerce companies selling air tickets on the 8th of November after receiving complaints related to air services. The complaints include those related to ticket refunds, deficiency in services, delayed compensation for lost and damaged luggage, denial of boarding, and lack of information on cancelled or rescheduled flights. Among those summoned are Peter Elbers of Indigo, Campbell Wilson of Air India, Ajay Singh of SpiceJet, Deep Kalra of Make My Trip, Dhruv Shringi of Yatra.com and Nishant Pitti of Ease My Trip. Business Today Television's Chetan Bhutani spoke to Nidhi Khare, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Consumer Affairs, on this.
Could you also give us a sense what the government's focus is when you look at such things now?
So the government is not regulating the prices that airlines want to, have for their cruise or travels. Neither do we want to disrupt the, sector. The whole idea is that for the consumers, the information should be lucid, clear. The disclosures should be honest and truthful, and there should not be anything which is misleading or unfair about the practices that are being adopted. And consumers must know upfront what they are buying. So, for example, when they are buying tickets, and suddenly there's a pop-up about purchasing of some insurance policy. Now, if the consumer does not want to take this policy, and he presses no, then there is this pop-up message which kind of makes the consumer feel guilty by saying that okay, I'll risk my life or some such thing. So this is something which is forcing the consumer to take a particular decision, and this is basically manipulating the consumer to take a decision which he has not expressly desired, neither has he given consent.
And also, it's a charge of the electric brigade at this year's Japan's mobility show. The revamped version of 69-year-old Tokyo Motor Show has a slew of concept electric cars and some very quirky mobility assistants. Also at the show, a peek into the new Maruti Suzuki Swift and the electric variants of the Toyota Land Cruiser.
Electric vehicles have taken center stage at the 8-day Japan Mobility Show, which opens to the public this Saturday. Global automakers are present in numbers to display their visions of an electric future. Toyota, which has been a vocal opponent to a fully electric future, updated its iconic Land Cruiser to add battery power to a 3-row concept vehicle it calls the Land Cruiser SE. Also on display, the FT series cars, acronym for Future Toyota. The first, an orange-colored FT SE, an electric sports car concept which could hit roads in the next couple of years. Another concept is the FT3E electric crossover, which showcases Toyota's near future. Unique to the concept are the digital displays on its exterior, which can be used as indicators for battery charge, onboard temperature and interior air quality. The unveilings follow an announcement by Toyota earlier this week that it is developing a new EV battery which will offer a 1,200 kilometer range and take only 10 minutes to charge.
We are making battery EVs like only a true car maker can. This means revisiting the fundamental principles of car making and delivering basic performance like driving range, as well as value that only battery EVs can offer. One example is making cars with both a low center of gravity and a spacious interior, which was not possible in the past.
Also revealed at the show, the all-new Suzuki Swift. The model, which will be sold at the Maruti Suzuki Swift in India, will reportedly come with a strong hybrid engine option capable of 35 km per litre mileage. What is also drawing attention is the newcomer Afeela, a joint venture between two giants, Honda and Sony. The silver sedan on display features what the company calls a customizable media bar on the front and a large screen on the dashboard inside. The goal, according to the company, is to bring the smartphone revolution to transport.
Everybody is using smartphones now, and smartphones are steadily changing. You install the apps you like, and I think people who have got used to that lifestyle want the same evolution when it comes to mobility. So we would like to make that a reality through software.
In keeping with the mobility concept of the show, Honda has its personal mobility device dubbed the Uni One ferry visitors across the show floor. Comprising a seat mounted on a gyroscope, the device is controlled by a user shifting their body weight, meaning almost anyone can use it. The device is intended for use outdoors at locations like theme parks and shopping outlets and could go on sale in 2025. Rival manufacturer Suzuki's stand also focuses on accessibility with the prototype 4-legged MOQBA electric scooter. The device with its 4 legs can seamlessly climb stairs, and the company said the horse-shaped scooter is well suited to challenging environments. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
With this, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap on this special edition. Many thanks for tuning in, but do stay tuned on to India Today to catch all the updates from the world of news.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
जब भी बर्न करते हैं तो उसमें कई तरह के स्मोक पार्टिकल और टॉक्सिक गैसेस जनरेट होती हैं, क्योंकि ये कंप्लीट बर्निंग नहीं होता है, प्रॉपर ऑक्सीडेशन नहीं होता है। और जब भी एक सही तरीके से कोई बर्निंग नहीं होती है तो छोटे छोटे पार्टिकल्स, पार्टिकुलेट मैटर और स्मोक और हार्मफुल गैसेस जनरेट होती हैं, जिसको हम इनहेल करते हैं। खासकर जो लोग बहुत प्रोन है, रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम या इम्यूनिटी सिस्टम जिनका वीक है, तो उनको सांस संबंधित बीमारियां बढ़ जाती हैं, आंखों में जलन हो जाती है। सिर्फ ये नहीं है कि ह्यूमन को ही प्रॉब्लम है, जो एनिमल्स हैं आसपास के इलाकों में उनकी सेहत पर भी इसका दुष्प्रभाव पड़ता है।
अब दिल्ली के लोगों का क्या कसूर है? दिल्ली के लोग क्यों सफ़र करें? दिल्ली के लोगों ने मेहनत करके पूरे साल अपना पोल्यूशन कम किया है। हम लोगों ने 25% पूरा साल अपना पोल्यूशन कम किया है। वी हैव कम इन गुड, सेटिस्फैक्ट्री और मॉडरेट कैटेगरी। लेकिन इस दौरान आसपास पंजाब से और हरियाणा से जो पराली का धुआं आ रहा है, 3-4 दिन बीच में कम हुआ बिकॉज वहाँ बारिश हो गई थी। उधर बारिश हुई तो उन्होंने पराली जलानी बंद कर दी, दिल्ली का धुआं कम हो गया। अब फिर से बता रहे हैं, आज आप ही लोग बता रहे हैं, आप ही के टीवी चैनल दिखा रहे हैं कि पराली का धुआं बहुत बढ़ गया है। तो मुझे बड़ा दुख है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट का क्लियर आदेश था, उस दिन सुप्रीम कोर्ट कितना नाराज़ हुआ, उसके बावजूद भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट के आदेश को भी नहीं मान रहे।
रोड डस्ट से होता है, कोई कहता है व्हीकुलर पोल्यूशन से होता है, कोई कहता है पराली जलने से होता है, लेकिन कोई भी आधिकारिक डेटा मौजूद नहीं है जो ये बता पाता है कि कितना पोल्यूशन कौन से सोर्स से होता है। इससे समस्या क्या आती है? इससे समस्या ये आती है कि कोई भी पॉलिसी बनाई नहीं जा सकती इस पोल्यूशन को कम करने के लिए जब तक सरकार को पता ही नहीं है कि कौन सा पोल्यूशन का सोर्स कितना कंट्रीब्यूशन कर रहा है।
Sorry. चुनाव में बदल गई है खूब जिंदगी, छाँव है कभी कभी है धूप जिंदगी, सब मिलके अब इलेक्शन लड़ो, मामा का क्या कल हो न हो, कमल पे कमल छा जाए, दिल क्यों अभी से घबराए, 18 बरस तक मैंने संभाला, फिर से मौका मिल जाए, इस बार तो बदलाव हो, मामा का क्या कल हो न हो।
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
It's day 20 of the Israel-Hamas conflict. When is that ground operation going to happen? Will the 200 hostages be brought back? I'm in the heart of Tel Aviv, where families and friends of the hostages have escalated their protest and their message to the political and military leadership for the hostages to be brought back. Over the next hour, all of my ground reports from across Israel to tell you where things actually stand. And they are on tenterhooks with the Israel-Gaza conflict threatening to become a wider West Asian struggle.
Day 20 of Israel-Hamas war. US President drops big bombshell. Hints at bid to sabotage India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. Hamas targeting G20 game changer. Iran enters Israel-Hamas battle. Hamas terrorist trained on Iranian soil.
President Joe Biden has said that the India-West Asia-Europe economic corridor may have been one of the triggers for what the Hamas did on October the 7th. Now, this goes down to being aligned with many things that have been said on India today of how a normalization of relations between Israel and the larger Arab world may have been a strategic threat to countries like Iran. Here's what President Biden said and what the implications could be for India and beyond.
I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, as my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall.
Massive bombshell by US President Joe Biden, exposing a clear India link to Hamas terror strikes. Biden says he's convinced that the India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi was the immediate trigger for the attack on Israel.
I'm convinced one of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, as my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall. And we can't leave that work behind. And one more word on this. I continue to be alarmed about extremist settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank.
You know, let's face it, the most powerful world leader at this point of time, he's got two big carrier battle groups in the region, principally, because of the rising Iran threat. Let's face it, it's not really just to help Israel. The India-Europe Middle East economic corridor being one of the triggers. I don't know if it's a principal trigger, but one of the many triggers, is not hard to believe. I wouldn't dismiss it.
India's ambitious corridor, a rival of China's Belt and Road Initiative, aims to link India, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan and Europe to Israel's Haifa port. Hamas is dead against Israel's integration and friendship with the Arab world.
The normalization of relations and tensions, especially between Israel and Saudi Arabia, sanctions lifted in part between US and Iran, the India economic corridor becoming a kind of, a sort of layer, almost an affirmation of that normalization process, must have been a strategic risk to countries like Iran that stand to lose, leverage and power in a region. Remember that conflict is power, and Iran has always represented that proverb in a very, very big way.
It was in September when Prime Minister Narendra Modi, flanked by President Biden and Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman, announced the game-changing India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor.
भारत कनेक्टिविटी को क्षेत्रीय सीमाओं में नहीं मापता। सभी क्षेत्रों के साथ कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ाना भारत की मुख्य प्राथमिकता है। हमारा मानना है कि कनेक्टिविटी विभिन्न देशों के बीच आपसी व्यापारी नहीं, आपसी विश्वास भी बढ़ाने का स्रोत है।
Today, I'm proud to announce that we've finalized the historic agreement for a new India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. As a key part of this corridor, we're going to invest in ships and rail that extends from India all the way to Europe, connected by the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel.
As the Modi brainchild, to revolutionize global business come as a red flag for Hamas? With Shivarur in Israel, Bureau Report, India Today.
The Wall Street Journal cites a US intelligence report to suggest that Iran, far from being just a handler of proxies like the Hezbollah and Hamas, actually on its own soil, using its Al-Quds forces, trained and armed Hamas terrorists specifically for what they did on October the 7th. If this is proven to be true, and the US has so far denied anything in this intelligence report and what the Wall Street Journal has reported, if it turns out to be true, it would be for the first time that the prospect of a direct collision between the United States, Israel and Iran could be on the cards. Take a look at this report.
Shocking revelation by US media, indicating a direct role of Iran in executing the terror strike on Israel. As per Wall Street Journal, the Hamas terrorists who attacked Israel on October 7th were trained by Iran's military and the Quds force. Iran even gave Hamas terrorists combat training, and over 500 Hamas terrorists took training in September, a month before the bloodiest attack. As per reports, Iran gave funds to Hamas before the attacks and even helped the terror group with weapons and technology.
That terrorist meeting between the Hezbollah chief along with the deputy leaders of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad and the Hamas in Beirut, the fact that Israel continues to conduct airstrikes on Hezbollah positions, a very indirect Iranian role is becoming more and more explicit.
International plan.
Iran's supreme leader sent out a stern warning to Israel, claiming it can never confront the Muslim forces.
America is a definite accomplice of the criminals. In this crime, America's hands is covered with the blood of the oppressed, the children, the ill, and the women up to the elbow. Since it couldn't overpower the fighters, it won't be able to outpower them in the future either. It's taking revenge on the defenseless and oppressed people and throwing bombs on them.
Israel has repeatedly revealed that Iran is the key force behind the coordinated Hamas attacks, prompting the US to back its right to self-defense.
The United States does not seek conflict with Iran. We do not want this war to widen. But if Iran or its proxies attack US personnel anywhere, we will defend our people. We will defend our security.
You've got the leader of Iran coming out and, pretty much confirming common cause with these proxies, as if to suggest that it is Iran, after all, that is the puppet master in all of this.
Will the revelation of Iran's full role in the terror strikes lead to an Israel-Iran war? With Shivarur in Israel, Bureau Report, India Today.
I was among a very small group of journalists that was in the audience for a screening of 43 minutes of unedited, raw, uncensored body cam, CCTV, traffic camera and mobile footage taken in part by Hamas terrorists. It depicts in the most visceral manner the barbarity of what happened on October the 7th. None of that footage, or at least most of it, isn't being put out in public. Out of 43 minutes, only 90 seconds has actually been released by the Israeli Defense Forces. But I saw all of it and I was taking notes. Here's a full, most detailed description of what I saw. I sat down for 43 minutes to watch unedited body cam, mobile, CCTV and other footage that was put together by the Israeli Defense Forces of what happened on October the 7th. A grieving but galvanized Israel is bewildered and angry at having to explain to the international community why it is doing what it is doing in Gaza. As a humanitarian crisis looms there, Israel is wondering whether the international focus is shifting away from how it all started. So here, over 43 minutes, I sat to watch what the Israeli Defense Forces had put together. This is where it started.
The first clip opens with the smiling, excited face of a Hamas terrorist in the back of a Toyota pickup truck, waving his AK-47 in the air. With him are 4 others holding tight to the sides of the truck as it speeds along a dusty track. All dressed in black with the signature green Hamas headband. After a few words in Arabic, the man filming the video begins an Allahu Akbar chant and is joined by the others. The second clip, one that the IDF included in 90 seconds of footage that was made public, is a dashcam video taken from a civilian's car. As the driver approaches, he sees armed men on the road. This isn't an unusual sight in a highly militarized Israel. But one of the men on the road waves at the car and then fires right at it. The panicked driver steps on the gas to speed past. But the car is peppered with bullets, cracking the glass. The driver, clearly hit by the time, loses control and the car careens off its path and smashes into a parked SUV. Two Hamas terrorists are then seen venturing into a kibbutz. A black dog, likely a Labrador, appears and runs towards the 2 Hamas men. The man wearing the body cam fires 3 shots, killing the dog instantly on the track.
The next clip that I saw is almost too terrible, too disturbing to describe. It features a father and his 2 sons. The opening scene is the 3 of them cowering in fear in one of the rooms of their house, which has just been invaded by Hamas terrorists. As they try to escape from that house, 2 terrorists enter the frame and then point blank, they execute the father in front of his sons. The blood from his gunshot wound spatters their faces and their bodies, and naked and shivering, they bolt back into the house. Once inside, CCTV cameras capture the 2 brothers wailing, wondering why they're still alive. The elder boy, still a minor, tends to his younger brother, asks if he can see well, both their faces completely covered in blood. One can only imagine their trauma. Outside, a separate CCTV camera captures the mother, who is so far completely ignorant of what has happened, arriving back home with 2 security guards. And when she sees her husband, she simply collapses.
The next picture is a still image. It's a picture of an infant in diapers with 3 gunshot wounds, including 1 in the head. It's an unblurred version of the same image that the Israeli Foreign Ministry released days after the October 7th attack in the wake of the beheaded baby's report from kibbutz Kfar Aza. More stills show a completely charred infant, the head of either an infant or a toddler, more charred infants, and a dog shot dead in a living room. 2 still pictures show an ISIS flag on the floor, followed by pictures of a woman shot dead in a baby playroom and another slumped with gunshot wounds in a laundry room. The next item is the full audio clip of a young Hamas terrorist who phones his parents in Gaza during the attack.
بكلمك من جوال يهودية قتلتها وقتلت جوزها 10 بيدي يابا قتلت 10 يابا 10 بيدي قتلت يابا افتح الوصف شوف كيف قتلت يابا افتح بتدافع عليك وصف قول له وين بروح يابا رجل بسيم يابا والله 10 قتلت 10 بيدي يابا دمهم على ايدي اعطينا امي
Another home invasion by a group of Hamas terrorists show them entering what appears to be a study. One of the home's occupants is clearly under the table, though it's not clear if he or she is alive or shot earlier. The terrorists chant Allahu Akbar and fire onto the table. One of the terrorists is holding an American M4A1 carbine.
The final sequence of the 43 minutes features a survivor sifting through a field of ash and bone, looking for anything that's familiar. Charred bodies from car to car, rooms filled with mangled corpses, body parts, ashes with burnt organs on them, cars with charred bodies inside them, a skull lying to one side. That is all that is left. And this is what Israel wants the world to see. This is what Israel wants the international community not to forget as it continues to focus, rightly so, on the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And then the scene cuts to black. If there's one factor that is influencing pretty much everything militarily speaking in Gaza, it is the hostage crisis. I'm reporting here from near the Freedom Square of Tel Aviv, where the family and friends of over 200 hostages have been collecting every day. Today, on day 20, they've upped the ante, they've raised temperatures and are demanding an immediate prisoner exchange or a ceasefire. At least 30 children, 210 people in all continuing to be in Hamas captivity. I saw footage released by the IDF yesterday in a screening where those hostages being taken was seen by select few journalists for the first time. This is a crisis that is influencing every aspect of what we're looking at. They may be just faces on a wall here, on the wall of the kidnapped. But 20 days after the Hamas struck Israel and took hundreds of Israelis hostage, this wall has become a national symbol. We understand that to mark 20 days, there's going to be an enormous protest right here in the heart of Israel's Tel Aviv city. But each of these names rings out. They're probably just strangers to so many, apart from their families and relatives. But each one of these names has now become symbolic of how long it's taking for this hostage crisis to be resolved. Let me just read out some of these names in the hope that at some place they will be heard. Oron Dira, 54 years old. Jasmine Dira Koch, 53 years old. Omar Shentov, 20 years old. Gomi Gonan, 23 years old. Erez Galvez, 12 years old. Ite Reget, 18 years old. Many of these posters are written in Hebrew. Maya Reget, 21 years old. Nizam Ribstein, 19 years old. Many of their families have been visiting this wall on a daily basis. I've seen a lot of people, citizens, common citizens, coming here with rolls of sellotape to make sure that these posters don't come unstuck. Out of respect, to give even these posters their dignity. 20 days is a very long time. 2 people were released by Hamas a couple of days ago, and 2 more people were released right before. That's just 4, but 210 continue to be in the captivity. And it is all these faces that you see here on this day. People as young,
12 people as young as 8, as 9, 51, like Rahul seen here in a picture. Son, Mahua Moitra, is 22 years old. He's an Israeli-American among several other American citizens who are understood to be in the captivity of Hamas. This is a situation that is not only representative of the families of the hostages themselves, but it also answers a question that a lot of people have been asking for a long time, which is, why isn't Israel moving into Gaza? Why hasn't an invasion taken place? What is happening with that ground operation? This is the reason. This is the reason why Israel doesn't have the luxury of simply holding its tanks in Gaza. No military operation is simple. No military operation is black and white. But this one is especially painted in shades of grey because the lives of each of these people, their families, their sentiments, is of immense priority to how Israel actually executes. The fact is there are a huge number of moving parts for Israel, operationally speaking, but also emotionally speaking. There's a massive amount of pressure from families. And remember, these are families who in normal times would have supported military operations. But when this crisis comes home, when your people are hostage, some of them want a ceasefire because they believe a military operation will only endanger the lives of the young. They remain in absolute pain, but they're hoping for peace. Here's hoping this crisis can be resolved very soon.
I have with me Annabelle, who is a friend of one of the persons who is still a hostage. You can see him in this picture here. Offer Angel is 17 years old. Annabelle, I just saw you distributing stickers, I think, to motorists and cars. What does that say?
It says, Ophir, we're waiting for you back home.
Tell us about what's going through your mind. It's been 20 days. 20 days is a very long time.
So Ophir is 17 years old, and he actually went to visit his girlfriend. It's a love story of two teenagers. He's from the north, and he went to spend the weekend with his girlfriend. Just a typical teenager love story, can you imagine?
Yeah.
And he was kidnapped together with his girlfriend's father. We don't know where he is. We don't know his